That means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas. And that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders. If it crawls and you don't like it, they're probably going to take care of it for you. Now, they serve all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're locally owned. These two guys have been running this business since 2013, and every year they get bigger and bigger. But you know what they still do? They still have great customer service. In fact, if you get a hold of them, they're usually going to have your quote and your job ready to go within 48 hours. That's pretty good. Now, you can call them for a free estimate at 469-809-1769. You can find them online at Grandeur4, that's the number 4, shore.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in Grandeur Pet Solutions, and we are so happy that they're title sponsor for Outdrink the Coverage in 2023.
That hawk too and spit on that thing. You get me?
Here we go! Here we go! Yeah, here we go!
It's time for the old time happy hour. So pick up your step and smile a while. Time to sing along with friends of ours. Think at your neighbor and
It's a little bit different of a happy hour tonight, as I can't hear myself once again. It's happening for some reason. There we go. I know you could hear me the whole time, but anyway, it is Outdrink the Coverage, a very special happy hour. As tonight, Noe learns not to let the bike guy touch his butt. We're going to be doing some All-Star memories. We're going to be watching the All-Star game with y'all again now. Remember, this is we can't show the All-Star game, but we can have like probably the box core ups, probably what we're going to be doing. But anyway, until then, for the next hour, close to, by the time the game actually starts, it'll probably be closer to 7:45. We're going to be just kind of giving out, talk a little bit about the state of baseball, where everybody is now. Especially teams like the Rangers and the Astros. We'll also, of course, be giving our all-star memories. We have videos for that. And we'll probably mix that in while we're actually watching the game. And to go ahead and tell everybody now, unless we're just having a gay-o time, or this is one of the best all-star games ever, this will probably be about the same length as a normal happy hour. We'll probably go a couple hours, maybe 3 with it being in the All-Star game. I do want to at least get through one time through the American League because Rangers have a couple guys that'll be hitting and all that. But until then, intern Noe the Pro, how are you doing? And what are you drinking?
Good evening, sir. I am doing well. I am drinking Weller's Special Reserve. It is a wheated bourbon from the Weller collection. It's one that's kind of hard to get, sort of hard to get in Texas, but it's one I have usually on reserve. So decided to break it out for a special occasion, the All-Star game. So how are you doing? What are you drinking?
I am doing great. This will be the second episode in the studio. It's the first time over here on what will normally be the high school, as you can tell. Sideline to sideline. Check us out. Grant and I will be doing a new episode this Thursday, absolutely. But right now, we got the temporary banner, which will actually be at your house here pretty soon. Thank you to SI Design and Printing for getting the 2 new banners that are up over on the other wall. Of course, we've got our all-star display. I wanted to point this out, and I'm about to tell you what I'm drinking. Don't worry. But I wanted to point this out because this is special, and it's why it's in this cube. This is an all-star ball from the 19 festivities, which was played
in Arlington.
There you go. And I was at the home run derby. And so I catch a Frank Thomas. Well, I didn't catch it. It kind of hit the fence.
Oh, the 95 home run derby.
Yeah, 95. Sorry, I said 94. Yeah, 95. The one at the Arlington. Anyway, I caught a Frank Thomas home run, or it found its way into my hands, which is crazy because one of our memories tonight might be Frank Thomas, but not there, at a different park, maybe the year before. But anyway, what we're going to be doing, as we do each and every week, we're going to be talking sports, and I am drinking from a very frosted glass. We got new. So if people know, we're in a new studio, same area. We've been just kind of renovating the house and stuff. And now that a female kind of lives here, I've got to have like good things. And I can't, drink my vodka from a water bottle anymore. So we got new tumblers. And I like this one because it just simply says sip. So every time it gets a little wet, I do a little tea and a dash and I go, I'm a Texas fan. I'm a tea sip. Okay, I might have started drinking a little
That
bit.
was so lame.
So let me get here while I'm doing some things and figuring some things out. Again, new side of the studio. We're trying to figure out how the sounds, new equipment, all that. By the way, this is actually the blue. I got a new blue. I got you a purple one to match our Outdrink the Cover banner. This is the first time we're using this new mic filter. I really like it. But let me get your thoughts on how the how the first half of the baseball season ended, especially in the AL West, because I'm going to tell you what, Noe, it might seem little, but I think we saw some changes, and I think we're about to see a whole different AL West race in the second half of the season.
I guess I'll just start there since you brought it up. Seattle right now, currently, they have a 1-game lead. Right now, them and Houston are tied with 46 losses. So assuming they both played the same amount of games, they would be in a tie. And that's usually how I look at standings. I looked at how many losses a team has. I don't really care what the percentage is or the games back.
Yeah.
So right now, Seattle and Houston are tied for the American League East or West lead. That's how I see it. Houston and Texas are on the same trajectory. They both, Texas had a faster or better start than Houston. Houston had a 12 and 24 start to the season. And they kind of right the ship as they're getting healthy and not playing some tougher teams right now. But Houston's going to be there. Texas is getting healthy. Scherzer will be back fully, and then
we hope Josh Young will be back soon.
Josh Young, yeah, he was actually around this area at T-Mobile store, kind of by where I worked during the day, signing autographs and stuff. So it was kind of cool. I didn't get a chance to sneak out and go get an autograph, but yeah, he's in the area, so he'll probably be in Arlington right now.
Are you a autograph guy?
No. I mean, I had I wanted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2017. I got Roger Staubach's signature just because I was there. You kind of have to.
In the moment. I'm fine if you get an autograph in the moment. Like, and I don't mean going, and I'm not besmirching anybody that does these things. I'm just saying for me personally, I don't want to go to an autograph signing. That's not a thing for me. But if it's in the wild and somebody's willing to do that, that's cool because that's a moment thing. Like you can always look at that and go, man, I met Roger Staubach at the Hall of Fame. But I've never been big into going to autograph signings, and I've never been big on like somebody else giving me an autograph of something. Unless it's Kate Beckinsale's phone number. Now that I will take, and it'll be blocked within 30 seconds of the first call. But I'm like you. Like if it's in the moment and it feels, you don't feel like you're pushing on them or something, I think it's a fun moment.
So I'll just finish off the West by just saying Seattle, they need offensive power. Their pitching is good enough to win a championship. Right now, they only have a +19 run differential, so they definitely need some bats.
And you knew that going in. We knew that going in that for Seattle, if they were going to be successful, they were either going to have to win a lot of games 3-1, or some guys come up and hit quicker than they thought, or they were going to have to get help. I know a lot of people think Seattle's collapsing and all that. I think they're in a really good spot. I think they just wanted to be above water going into the trade season, and then they can figure out what they're going to do from there.
Yeah, and I think there'll be players in the trade market. Houston, honestly, them in Texas, I know the thought process is, okay, we need to add something. We need to add pitching. To me, both those teams, I would just stand pat and just get healthy. I know that's not going to happen. They're going to try to go for a talent here and there, but I really think Houston and Texas just need to get healthy, and they're both on the right track. Texas won 7 out of 10. Houston, like I said, they were 12 and 24, and now they're 50 and 46, so they're already on the right trajectory. The Angels, I think they just need to cut the cord with Trout. I think him and Ohtani.
Wow, really?
him and Otani were only good enough to get to 500. Now
Mhm.
it's just him, and he's injured, and you see how awful they really are. They need to get assets. They need to get they are directionless, and that is the one term you never want to describe your team as being. When you're
That's
directionless, you don't know. It's just purgatory.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, and I think the mistake has been made is they didn't do that trade last year, or they didn't do that trade 2 years ago. I think you could still get a good amount for Mike Trout, but you're not going to get anywhere. You never were going to get the value of Mike Trout. It's the same thing when Texas traded A-Rod. And I was like, well, how'd they only get Soriano and all? Well, Alfonso Soriano is a way better baseball player than people give him credit for. The problem with Soriano is he was kind of like Anthony Rendon is of the Angels, where I don't know if baseball was always his main love. He was great at it. He played well, so he played, but he never felt like, oh, he just loved baseball unless he was in a Yankees jersey. But people need to remember he was an all-star MVP for the Texas Rangers. He played well for the Texas Rangers. But you never were going to get the A-Rod true value. You never were going to get the Mike Trout true value. But now I don't even know if you get good value. You might get everyday starter and one prospect and then a couple others, when before you could have gotten 3 starters, an all-star, and 3 good prospects.
They've already made bad decisions the last 9 years that you might as well just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid, completely collapse like Oakland did a couple years ago. Oakland looks better than the Angels do right now.
Oakland, I'm going to tell y'all what, folks, if they're going to pull the normal crap that owners do when they move because they have to, watch out. Oakland's going to be good pretty quick.
They're supposed to go to Sacramento next season and then officially move to Vegas in a couple years.
Yeah, and watch them in the offseason, maybe even right now, but especially in the offseason. For the next 2 years, they're just going to be a turnstile. Every prospect that comes up is going to be traded, and they're going to move them because they're going to build that. And by the way, we can talk all we want about the ownership, and they're crappy, but give credit to that scouting department, because every 4 years, Oakland has 4 guys to 7 that come up and make them better than they should be. And I want to go back to the Angels real quick. I do want to say, as crappy as the decisions have been made by the Angels, at least they've been made with the idea of we're trying to win, we're trying to spend money. They haven't been like Oakland and holding the purse strings. In fact, they've paid too much. If I was an Angel fan, I know it's frustrating, because it felt like in 2013 and 2014 and especially 2015, it felt like the Angels was about to surpass the Rangers and become the team of the West. And then again, Josh Hamilton fell apart. Wilson never was as good as he was going to be. Albert Pujols was 5 years too late on that signing and all that, but at least they're trying. And I do appreciate that from them as a team.
Yeah, that is true. Those first, 2014, I think they won almost 100 games in their season. I think the last time they made the playoffs, and they just proceeded to get swept in the playoffs. And that was the last time they've been. That was the only time Mike Trout's ever been in the playoffs. Yeah, getting Pujols was a great move. C.J. Wilson, all them. But man, this team is just unrecognizable. I remember this team, even when they're the California Angels, being competitive, and I don't know what I'm looking at right now.
The funny thing is with Gene Autry, they had kind of the same thing, man. He would pay. And they would always be snake bitten. I can't think of his name, but they brought in the late 70s a really good bat. He was a solid glove. He was a really good bat, and then he gets killed in a shooting that it wasn't even for him. I think if I remember correctly, he was in the back seat, and a girl that he was with, it was her ex, but he gets killed. Things like that always snake bit the Angels, and that's when that World Series between them and the Giants. I was just happy whoever won, because I as much as I'm a Texas fan and, rivals and all, and as long as you're not the Philadelphia Eagles, I tend to want teams to win that haven't won in forever. I think it makes the sport fun, just like with Texas last year. I've heard so many people that aren't Houston fans say, man, you know what? I'm not even a Ranger fan, but that was fun. That was awesome to see y'all finally do it and all that kind of stuff. And so that World Series between the Giants and the Angels, I was kind of torn because neither one of them had won in forever. Angels never. And at that point, the Giants, since they had moved out to San Francisco in 55 or whatever it was.
57, I believe, 57 or 58.
Yeah.
Or it might have been, you might be right.
I'm right. I pulled it up.
Oakland, I think they're on the right track. They have the youth. The only question I think they have is, do they trade Brent Rooker now while he has max value, or he'll be a franchise player they build this great team around?
Is that, and I don't think they keep anybody until they get to Oakland. I mean, until they get to Las Vegas. I think you're going to see them. First, I would trade him again. You could get not Mike Trout, but you're going to get 3 guys that are top 10 in that other whatever teams. You're going to get their prospects. And I would be looking for 2 years from now. Hell, you've been holding out for 15 years. You can wait 2 more years till you get to Vegas and then have that team ready to win right there. Because as much as we're all frustrated with the A's ownership and stuff, if they were to do that, they would be the talk of baseball.
Yep. Looking around the rest of the AL, I think Toronto might have maxed out their value. I think it's just time to say, hey, we just can't do it. And they have a lot of assets. I would seriously consider a fire sell. Bo Bichette, Vlad Jr., all that great talent. They're sitting at the bottom of the AL East. What they have now is not good enough to compete, and they're below the Braves, who've had a rash of injuries. Like 4 of their 5 starting pitchers are on the injured list, and they somehow still derp their way to a 500 record. Now they have a minus 63 run differential, but
that blows my mind, dude. And I know baseball in of itself tends to be a little different because you can win 4 straight games at 6-4, but then you get beat 14-2 and you just basically blow that whole PD down. But still, you're talking about if they were to finish at 500 and even stay right there, that would be historical on how bad the run differential has been.
Yeah. The Rays, the Tyler Glasnow left. Wander Franco's has the legal issues.
He not get convicted. He just got. They're moving it to trial, so there's at least enough evidence. And man, that sucks. I mean, that really does. And I mean, for the family of the girl as well. But I'm just talking about looking at it as a baseball fan. That just kind of sucks because that was. I mean, he was going to be special.
He was really going to be special.
Pitch.
Yep. Yes. Red Sox, to me, they've exceeded expectations. I didn't expect much from them, and they're almost 10 games over 500. They're in wild card position. Orioles and Yankees.
The Red Sox doesn't feel like it's going to last.
You think it's smoke and mirrors?
I don't know if it's necessarily smoke and mirrors. I don't think Seattle, Houston, and Texas are as bad as they are going forward, like especially Houston. And I feel Texas too, but especially Houston. Let's be honest. We joke, we're Ranger fans, but man, the turnaround that Houston has done to where at one point they had the second worst record in baseball, and from that point on, they're 37-20, which is the best record in baseball. That's not a fluke. Now, could it be a situation where they run out of gas? Because, man, I know this sounds funny, but when you're having to push the pedal in June and in May, really, and you're having to go full bore every game because you've already given up your whole buffer, it wears you down. And I think we saw that last year with Texas at the end of the year. That there was a reason why Texas would go from they'd win 8 out of 10 and then they would lose 12 out of 14. And then they'd kind of break 500 for the next 5. And then they'd lose, 8 out of 10. And finally they kind of got going again and got healthy at key points. And players like Evan Carter came up and that really helped. But yeah, I think it's more of the Astros, the Rangers, and Seattle will play better.
Yeah, well, Seattle, they do need bats. They're the one team I've talked about so far that really needs to be active before the trade deadline, get a couple of good players. Their offense is anemic, and they need to do something about it. It's a combination of underperformance from some of their better players and just lack of talent. Julio Rodriguez hasn't been there this season. So anyway, I think they'll right the ship. Their pitching is just that good. Speaking of great pitching, well, I'll go to the Central in a minute, but Baltimore and New York, not sure who's winning that division. It's really tight right now. Baltimore has the youth. New York has the power.
Yeah, but the Yankees have been terrible. They've done the exact opposite of what the Astros have done. The Yankees at one point, everybody's like, man, they're running away in a really good AL East, and holy crap, are they back? And then now I mean, they're at that point where, man, if they start really bad after the All-Star break, I could foresee some changes being made. And I mean, in manager and things like that.
They are very quick to make moves. So yeah, what that is a good point. Well, let's see what happens after the All-Star break. Let's see how they respond the first two series after the break. And that might dictate if a manager stays, if a players get traded. They're like the Dodgers in the AL. Them and the Yankees are so talented, but their record is not saying they are that talented. I mean, New York has a great record, but it's not as good as what it probably should be. They should have a record similar to the Philadelphia Phillies in the National League.
So, do you think what are your thoughts on the Phillies and the Braves and the Mets? Hey, let's everybody give credit to the Mets, man. They were a laughing stock last year. All the money they spent immediately ended up trading everybody to Texas. We appreciate you. Thank you. And then this year, everybody was like, "Oh, they're gonna be okay." And then they started out really, really slow. But man, since then they're playing like 60% baseball winning clip. I think they were fourth best or fifth best record. I don't really know if they're gonna stay around, but at least they're viable again.
They're just being more consistent. That's really all it is. The Mets are 3 games over 500. They had a terrible start, but they just got better over time. They played the Rangers really well in that series. I think they'll be around just because of how, I'm going to say terrible, but kind of how mediocre the wild card teams are right now. Like Atlanta, they've underperformed. They're the biggest underperformer. Like losing Ronald Acuna for the year, that was a big blow.
I feel like that's becoming a normal thing, though.
Yeah, just losing one of their top. Yeah, I get it. But like after the Braves and the wild card, it's the Cardinals who are 50-46, same record as the Astros, and then the Cincinnati Reds are 47-50. They're only 4 games back in the loss column, and they're like 7 teams down. So it's very jumbled right now in the NL wildcard, which makes it exciting for the fan because every game kind of counts right now. The Diamondbacks, Padres, Pirates.
Hey, give the Pirates credit. They did not completely drop after their hot start like they did last year. They still came back to earth, but they're at least playing well. They ended the first half on a winning streak. I'm always a big believer on winning going into the All-Star break, man. Just it makes everything feel better as a fan, and I think as a team. Well, especially now where you get the whole week. It used to be, they came in there on Monday, they did their things on Monday night, they played the All-Star game on Tuesday, and Wednesday was getaway day. Now, because it's a whole week, I just think it puts you in a better mindset.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's like a place to relax, reset. You're at the halfway point. It's like the NFL bye week, but everybody has a break in the middle of the season. So I kind of like that in the sense that it gives everybody a fair shot. Everybody has the same bye week in this example, so that's kind of fair for everybody, and it kind of resets the season. We've already seen one half, so let's see what happens in the next half. What trades teams make. I think it's going to be pretty exciting, especially with teams like Pittsburgh and Cincy and Chicago starting coming back on a roll. Even the Nationals, they're only 6 games out of the final wild card spot. The only teams in the NL that don't even really have a shot this season are the Rockies and the Marlins. So it's going to be a pretty fun next 3 months.
People have griped and talked about how the extra playoff has ruined baseball and all that. But I think you're seeing this year, I think the extra playoff spot and let's be honest, Texas doesn't win a World Series last year without that extra playoff spot. But I just think the extra playoff spot is showing that it's actually fun. Like it's fun and it keeps teams more engaged. It keeps teams that might be 5 games below 500, but they're still and I'm not even talking about Texas because Texas's route's probably through the division more than anything. But in other divisions where that's competitive, you can be 5 games out or 5 games below 500 and still go, hey, if we trade for a bat and we have one good week, we're sitting right there in the playoff race.
And it's happened over the course of baseball history where that one big trade changes everything. Think about Cliff Lee coming to Texas in 2010 and how big of an impact he had for the Rangers. Or Carlos Beltran going to the was it from the Astros or the Mets or vice versa?
Matt
Oh no,
Stafford.
it was the Royals, I think, to the
The Royals
Astros.
to the Mets. Yeah, Royals to the Astros. Then he signed the big deal for the Mets.
Yeah.
And then it became like he was one of those guys. There's like 4 or 5 guys in the history of Dallas sports that you always thought would end up being a Ranger. And he did, but by the time he was spent. And also it turns out he's kind of a not a great locker room guy at all times. But he ended up back in Houston because that's actually what started he was part of the whole cheating scandal. He was a big player in that. But yeah, Carlos, he was always the guy that you thought, man, in 2010 and stuff, man, if he would just become a Ranger, he would settle that center field issue, which, if you're a Ranger fan, you've known that for 25 years, it was stopgap center fielders after stopgap center fielders. But yeah, and I love trade season baseball. Trade season baseball is still the best trade season of all the sports.
The funny thing is, I was looking at all these teams and wondering who should make the biggest moves, and I really feel that teams like Cleveland and Milwaukee, they're leading their divisions right now. But Cleveland, they need starting pitching. I think they're scraping by. I think they have the AL's best record just because of their bullpen has just been lights out this season. But yeah, they need starting pitching if they're going to really compete for something in the playoffs, especially against your Baltimores and your New Yorks and your Houstons probably. I'm looking with them in Minnesota or Milwaukee. There's team like Chicago who has the worst record in baseball at 27-71.
They were just terrible.
But they have 2 really good starting pitchers. One is Garrett Crochet, who's just a big old lefty that can just throw. I mean, all these baseball pitchers now can throw 100 miles an hour. It's just crazy now how the pitchers now have all this strength. I mean, I guess it's years in nutrition, and now everybody knows how to work out properly in order to get that extra mile per hour.
Everybody throws 100% at every throw. That's why we're having so many Tommy John issues. That's why pitchers are hurt all the time.
That's why relief pitchers are a premium nowadays.
That's why they're a premium, and somebody's going to figure it out. There's a Greg Maddux, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, that any changes you make in baseball, they're already in the process of, and we just don't know it yet, or it's going to be a few years because baseball, you draft and all that, it takes time. But there's going to be a Greg Maddux-like guy that comes up and just absolutely takes baseball by storm, because you're going to see a bunch of 280-pound muscle guys dropping their knees buckle as a 72 changeup just freezes them. But yeah, it sucks right now. I don't care to see 100 miles an hour when everybody's hurt. But you're right. Chicago, I mean, they're the team that with the right moves next year and the right decisions, and if they don't trade anybody, they could be a really quick turnaround. Because let's not forget, it was just 2 years ago, everybody had them going to the World Series.
Yeah, they just underperformed, and then it was a quick descent after that. They have 2 really almost Cy Young caliber starting pitchers. Just let them stay on the roster. I think they have enough young talent in their farm system to be able to just wait it out a couple of years and be competitive. You're kind of seeing teams like Washington starting to compete in the NL. I'm trying to think of another team. Detroit's almost there. They're hovering, and I think I saw it last year. They are not off to the big start I thought they would have this season.
I still think they're a year away, but yeah, they were the hot young. Watch out for them. They could, and in that division, they still could.
Them and Cincinnati were my sleeper picks this season, and they both kind of have identical records. But because of the way the season's going, Detroit will still be there. They're 7 games out in the wild card, but I could definitely see them going on a tear in August and getting somewhere within that vicinity of the wild card, or sniff it a little bit.
Yeah.
Kansas City, they haven't completely faltered like I thought they were going to. They are a young team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but I think that's a team they kind of remind me of what they were in 2013, where they just missed it, but the next year they made it to the World Series, and then that following year they finally won it. So Kansas City, that's a team I was on the look at. I can say they need bats, but it's that they have Seth Lugo, outstanding starting pitcher this season. They need a combination of both. But I think they're just young and still trying to learn how to win. even it's funny me saying that because they have Salvador Perez, who is going to go down as one of the greatest catchers of all time when his career is over.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota, there's just a team that kind of like with the Mets, they just got consistent at the right time, and now they're starting to pull some wins together, and they're 5 games in the loss column behind the Indians. So
And whoa.
Guardians.
Whoa.
Guardians. My bad. The Cleveland Guardians.
Cancel Noe.
I apologize.
But yeah, and do you trust Cleveland? Like, I mean, if you're in the Central right now, they've got pretty records, but would it shock you if not every one of those teams then started struggling as the season went along, and it ends up where they're all about 5 games out of 500 instead of 15 and 17?
Cleveland especially, just because they're kind of scraping, and no one thought they'd be this good, but it's because of their bullpen, and it's because of Jose Ramirez consistently making clutch hits and driving in runs driving in players when they're in scoring position, or like his on base percentage, but like his batting when runners are on base is ridiculous this season. And he's been consistently clutch for the franchise over the years. So
That's a really good point. He's been one of the unheralded guys. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, this is a team that a few years ago played for a World Series and were consistently good, for 3 or 4 years. And they have they have shown now they don't pay, but they have shown that they can cultivate, draft, and all that, and still, it takes them a few years. And you and I talked about this. Unless you're the Yankees or the Dodgers, or somebody that's going to just be willing to spend, that's what you do. That is exactly what you have to do. You ride it for as long as you can. And then you just hope that you can either mend some of the holes that show up later in the run, and you can stretch it a couple of years, but then eventually you're going to have to tear it all down and figure it out. But anyway, what we're going to do is I know we don't normally do this, but this is a little bit different. Also, I got to go do something. We're going to take a break. And then when we come back, we are going to start into the all-star part of the show. We're going to talk about our love of the all-star games when we were growing up, all that fun stuff right here on the Grandeur Pest Solutions All-Star Special on Outdrank the Coverage on L4 Media. And that means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas. And that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders. If it crawls and you don't like it, they're probably going to take care of it for you. Now, they serve all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're locally owned. These two guys have been running this business since 2013, and every year they get bigger and bigger. But you know what they still do? They still have great customer service. In fact, if you get a hold of them, they're usually going to have your quote and your job ready to go within 48 hours. That's pretty good. Now, you can call them for a free estimate at 469-809-1769. You can find them online at Grandeur4, that's the number 4, shore.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in Grandeur Pet Solutions, and we are so happy that they're title sponsor for Outdrank the Coverage in 2023. All right, Terry Bennett, intern Noe the Pro back here. It's Outdrank the Coverage. It's happy hour. It's the special one. It's the All-Stars. All right, so we're going to be doing this. We're at 7:10 our time, Central Standard Time. We're in Dallas. We're going to be doing. Why does this keep doing this? Sorry, I'm having some issues with something I'm trying to figure out. But we're going to be doing a watch along with the All-Star game. We can't, of course, show the game, but we'll have the box score up and all that. But we also wanted to do what we do on our look backs, and that's where we talk about memories and all. Because for you and I specifically, sports isn't just what we're watching now. We love to remember what we loved back in the day. And you and I have different loves of baseball. You loved it from afar, I would say. You knew all the stuff, and you could tell the division races and stuff, but I don't think you were getting the sporting news and the baseball cards and living that where I nearly watched every game of the 1986 Chicago Cubs because they were on WGN and things like that. So what is your love of baseball, and what is your love of the All-Star game?
I watched more than I probably have admitted because of WGN, because
Yeah,
of
TBS.
TBS with the Braves. So, the Rangers were being 81 and 81. I could flip on to a really good Atlanta Braves team in the early 90s, and then flip it to Harry Carey on WGN calling the Cubs game with Ryan Sandberg and all those guys there. I think Greg Maddux already left the Cubs by this point, but I mean, they still had a pretty solid roster. They had Mark Grace, he was a really good hitter. So I liked just the commentators, the atmosphere, just kind of like just watching fans watching the game. The environment felt kind of fun and family friendly, and as a little kid, that was kind of appealing. My favorite players back then were actually Barry Bonds and Juan Gonzalez. I just, everybody liked Ken Griffey. Like, he was just perfect. He had the perfect stance. He was cool. He was on a team that was kind of not like the New Yorks of the world, at that time Toronto or Atlanta, like really dominant teams. But he was on a team that was young, on the come up. They're kind of cool. They were the '90s. The Mariners of that time, where they were epitome of the '90s. But yeah,
Point. They were even as a Ranger fan, they were kind of a rival because, like you said, that was in the era where Texas, especially in the late 80s and then the late 90s or mid to late 90s, Texas was competitive. And that was right when Ken Griffey Jr. was there. I mean, heck, Nolan Ryan blew his arm out. His final game was in Seattle. And so they were always kind of a rival, but they were still fun to watch. Jay Buhner was an absolute blast. Edgar Martinez, best DH in the history of baseball, even with David Ortiz. Edgar Martinez was better at DHing. And that whole team, was just a fun team. Randy Johnson, you didn't know if he's going to hit 30 guys and be out in the first inning, or if he's going to throw a one-hitter and strike out 16 guys. And they were a fun team to watch. And I think it's like you said, they were approachable. Even though they had the biggest superstar on the planet, he was always pretty well grounded.
And he was getting a lot more support because you had the old school stuffy guys not liking the fact that he put his hat backwards. But he was just a kid. Yeah, that's what they call him, the kid back in the day.
You're right about that, but I think a lot of it was because it was before media. It was before not before media. It was before internet, true internet.
Yeah.
And people say, well, he was in the late 90s and early 2000s. But by then, he was an elder statesman. We're talking about right when he came up in 89 and stuff. And you're right. That was such a big thing. But because there wasn't that media, but also he just kind of kept his head down. He just kind of kept his head down and just didn't even comment on it. And I think that really, really helped him, because they're trying to say, well, that doesn't make him a professional. The dude just hit 320 with 42 home runs, 125 RBIs, 27 stolen bases. Oh, and he won a Gold Glove at one of the hardest positions. So I think people just kind of were like, you know what, we're going to shut up now.
So many reasons for them to shut up. He was playing with his dad, which is kind of a history-making thing.
Oh, the home run, back-to-back home runs. Epic moment. I was just watching that the other day randomly, and the thing that struck me about it is both of them hit opposite field home runs. I don't know if you know baseball, that's unique, and for them to both do it back to back, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, because usually you're going to hit in the direction you're swinging. So if you're a right-hander, you're going to swing for the left field, and if you're a left-hander, you're going to swing to the right field. So yeah, opposite field power is a very unique quality to have in baseball. Ken Griffey, he was so good. His batting stance was perfect. Everybody wanted to emulate it, as far as like, okay, this is the way just the way you swing the bat with that grace. And it looked like it was effortless, and he'd launch it at 450 feet out of the ballpark. So he was one of a kind. He was known more for his defense early in his career, and then his power came, and he was known for his power. It's a shame that all those injuries in Cincinnati kind of abbreviated what he could have done. I mean, he still got to 600 home runs. So just think, if he actually was healthy his entire career, how many home runs he probably would have been approaching 800 by the time he retired.
Well, and you got to ask the question, though, and I don't want to turn this into this, but why has nobody ever said anything about PEDs with him because of those injuries? Because that's the type of injuries. If you look at all of his injuries, I'm not talking about like his broken ankle when he was trying to make it, or broken. I can't remember if he broke his wrist or his ankle. I know he broke his ankle, but I think he broke his wrist diving for the ball. But I'm talking about all the muscle pulls and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the thing that's how when Jeff Bagwell and all them, that's what they would point to. And Griffey never really. And I'm not saying he deserved it. I'm just making a point. But yeah, is Cincinnati. He was at least consistent there, and so that's why he was able to reach all the numbers. But yeah, if he could have stayed healthy, I think he's matching Hank Aaron's record, and I think it's Ken Griffey Jr. that Barry Bonds would have ended up chasing at the end.
And that's very fair to ask because I would assume, like most people, without even thinking about it, they would assume, oh, if they're on roids, they must be shredded and huge. And that explains why they're hitting 50 home runs and winning the MVP. But then you see Rafael Palmeiro. He doesn't have the most physically imposing body. No, he has a bad, back in his playing days, he didn't have like the worst body or anything, but he was cranking 30, 40 home runs every year. Not with the, he wasn't like an Adonis or anything, but he was a great player.
Doesn't it feel like his excuse might be legit, though? You remember his whole thing was Miguel Tejada gave him some shots and said they were B12 shots. And everybody's like, oh, that's so stupid. And then Miguel Tejada got caught using shots. Now, Rafael Palmer also was with the Rangers, and I think we all realize now that the Jose Canseco Rangers was probably one of the most juiced up teams. Why didn't they bring it? I don't understand why they didn't take it over to the pitching staff. That could have helped. But let's go. We've got plenty of time. That's the one great thing about this show. Let's talk about this. You and I have had this conversation, and we've got over 5,000 people in it. We appreciate everybody joining us. This has been we never thought the happy hours would take off like this. I honestly thought when we first started the happy hours, about 3 months ago, I was like, man, if we get like 100 people listening, I'd be extremely happy. I will say this. It is time for baseball fans to get off their sanctimonious asses about steroids. It is one of the most overrated things that baseball fans try to make about, oh my God, he was on steroids. Yeah, Gaylord Perry cut the ball. Whitey Ford admitted he cut, and if you don't know what a scuffed ball does, it starts to dance. They're both in the Hall of Fame. They deserve it. They cheated. They actually, I think, cheated. I think messing with equipment is way worse than putting something in your body that might make you work out more. And that's all steroids does, folks. Steroids doesn't make you throw it better. It doesn't make your curveball break 4 more inches. It doesn't make you hit 300. It doesn't give you the eye-hand coordination of the great Barry Bonds. It simply allows you to keep working out, which allows you to get stronger.
Okay. Yeah. It's like, to continue what you're saying, it just makes your muscles not as tired as you typically would if you were not juicing. So you definitely could spend 2 hours in the gym pumping iron and not really feel the effects as much as you would if you're off juice.
Yeah, you could go back the next day and work out the exact same. But yeah, and you can also, there's also a thing where you can make the case where, that also could actually hurt them because a lot of that you're building muscle, but if you don't know how when you work out and you lift, you tear your muscle. That's really what you do, and then it rebuilds bigger. Well, there's also a case where if you're always re-tearing and rebuilding, yeah, you're getting bigger muscle, but are you actually truly getting true strength? And you go back to like Rafael Palmeiro, and again, Rafael Palmeiro, he probably did steroids, but do you really think that made him a better hitter? Because it didn't.
No, steroids doesn't help you hit the ball, which is one of the hardest in any sport. In all sports, I would rank hitting a baseball as one of the top 5 hardest things to do. And steroids doesn't do that. So as much as I know Barry Bonds was on something, I still loved watching him play. I still feel he was probably the best player I've ever watched.
Barry Bonds is at least a top 3 player of all time. And I will make the case that I think he is the greatest baseball player of all time.
He was my favorite player, so I'm not going to argue that with you. So, there's a lot of great players too. I mean, like I said, Griffey is up there. Recently passed Willie Mays, the Babe Ruth. I'm going to keep going back further. That's a very subjective ranking. I think football and baseball are similar in that regard, where the greatest of all time, I know you'll say Babe Ruth is, but or a lot of people will say Babe Ruth is.
Yeah.
But I still think it's very subjective, and I think it depends on the era we're in, just like with football. And even to an extent, I think just like with basketball as well.
Well, I think basketball is the easiest, at least up until about 1980, because we were just joking about this the other day. George McKeon, Minnesota Laker, Hall of Famer, considered one of the greatest, probably a top 10 center. Really? Like, if you threw him in today's basketball, basketball to me, I don't know if it's the height, the physicality, the size, or whatever. I do think the dividing line in baseball is, and football too. I think baseball is the most where a lot of things have changed, but they really haven't. Like, being bigger doesn't guarantee you hit more home runs. Throwing the ball harder, and we can argue about, Roof probably never saw the true pitching like they would today. Well, no, but I mean, you just have to accept that in that era, he was as good as you were going to see, and so the pitch. I don't know. It's fun. I do get tired of it now because you see it every day on like Facebook and stuff. I am so tired of Michael Jordan fans will post a meme, and then all the LeBron James fans will go over there and they'll just argue. And it's just like, why can't they both just be freaking amazing in 1A and 1B, or just like,
I got a good example. It's actually men's tennis. For years, Roger Federer was considered a really good tennis player, but in a bad era.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that was,
what's his name?
And then, slowly, Rafael Nadal, then Novak Djokovic changed his diet to, I think, a vegan diet or something like that. And he became an amazing tennis player. So then people started really appreciating Federer because, now he's in an era where there's 3 all-time greats. And so I kind of put it in that regard because, like, Federer was always good and to great, but the era he was in wasn't as bad as what people were thinking. Just because Agassi retired and Sampras retired, they just thought, it's just going to be like a dead era of tennis. But not. And in reality, there was actually a lot of really good tennis players.
Well, and what I think what hurt him is what's kind of where we're at in baseball, where, power is amazing. But the problem is that when it's nothing but power, it gets kind of boring. What makes the 100-mile-an-hour pitcher like a Nolan Ryan special in the 80s was there was like maybe 3 other guys that did it. Same thing with tennis. When Agassi and Chang and Sampras and that group and Bjorn and all them, when they all retired, it became a serve and volley game. And that's fun when you get the one dude that he serves really good, and that's it. And he's the only guy that really does that. It's kind of a trick pony. But when everybody does the same thing, it gets kind of boring.
Yeah, no one really stands out. Everybody's just kind of the same. Generic player 1 versus generic player 2. I mean, they're all really talented, but it's like this the same. There's no contrast. I used to love watching Tim Wakefield pitch back in the day. May he rest in peace.
God, I don't know why that one's just I keep forgetting, and it's you're not, and I think we brought it up on the last happy hour.
Yeah,
and, his wife dying just a few months. I mean, that's one of those things where you got to figure out, were they living somewhere where there was a cancer causing agent? Because I mean, I know that happens, but I just rewatched the 2004 30 for 30 about the Yankees and Red Sox. I don't care what side of baseball you're on. That is one of the greatest 30 for 30s. And I will contend that is a golden era of baseball from when McGuire and Sosa started to about 2009. That is just a great, fun. The rivalries were still there. You had bad guys. You had, A-Rod pushing Pedro Martinez pushing old men and all that fun stuff. I mean, that was just a fun time of baseball.
It was. The personalities were through the roof. The charismas were through. The egos were through the roof. The steroids were through the roof.
Steroids were through the roof. But go ahead. Sorry.
I was just thinking of like Martinez. I forgot who that Yankee guy was. He was a famous dugout coach for the Yankees during the Joe Torre era. I have his face in my head. I just can't remember who it is. But yeah, just watching,
Zimmer?
Huh?
Don Zimmer?
Don Zimmer. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're talking about the push. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Don Zimmer was a Ranger manager at one
Yep.
point.
Yep.
In fact, not too long ago I found an old a photo of his opening day program, and he was on it. And I remember getting that one as a kid and stuff. And yeah, and it was just fun. I mean, yeah, the Rangers weren't part of it, but it was just fun. And that, you know what, that back then when the Astros made their run, you know, people forget the Astros for a while were like the Major League Baseball version of the Dallas Cowboys. They could get to the playoffs, but they couldn't do anything in it. And then they finally break through to the World Series, and it felt like everybody's like, "Oh, we're crowning the Astros," and then the White Sox said, "Hey, we got this." And it was like it just took one game, and when that game broke, the Astros, you could just tell when Pettit and Clemens both got hit in that first two games, you just realized, oh, they're done. But yeah, that was just a fun time of baseball. So anyway. So you gave us your baseball memory, or why you love baseball, or part of what got you loving baseball. Here are your baseball memories. We'll do your 5 first.
Okay.
And there's a little bit in there because I added a couple things because it was kind of fun. But each one of them, you set the tone. We did these chronological just so you would know. So, Noe, what is this and why is this one of your top memories?
So this is the 1993 All-Star Game in Camden Yards. Camden Yards is in Baltimore. It was just recently opened, I think, the year prior. This was also the first year I started watching sports, so I was really into the Phillies in that season.
Still in your diaper?
Yeah, still in my diaper. I was 9 years old, but still in my diapers.
Still breastfeeding?
Yeah, still breastfeeding. Just learning like some of these players' names, but the personalities what really drew me in. You know, Griffey just had the cool demeanor, but and I love the way Bonds played. I loved his batting stance where he choked on the bat a little bit, and then Juan Gonzalez, of course, local guy. So I was trying to root for the local teams as well. That was big. I love the Astros uniforms back then, those old school uniforms. But yeah,
the Astros. Since 1989, they're one of the few sports teams in any sport that have twice or really 3 times, really. Yeah, 3 times just completely vamped their colors, their look. You know, when they were in the Astrodome the last couple of years, they went with that. And I wish I have the batting helmet and I don't know where it's at, but they went with that like blue and gold, very futuristic. They were leaning into the Astros part, astronaut and all that. And then when they moved into the ballpark, they went black and red, or kind of a orange red. It was a really good look. And they had the train up there, and they were leaning real big into the historical side of Houston, the railroads and all that. And then I guess about 10 years ago, they went back to the old school colors, but with different looks. And I'll give it to them, man. The Astros in all of their looks have always had some really good, clean looks.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Anyway, back to this. So Phillies, they end up making the World Series this season, lose to the Blue Jays. This is the year before the 94 strikeout. One of my favorite players at this time was actually John Kruk, the guy for the first baseman for the Phillies in this photo right here. Randy Johnson, the big unit, 6'10", left-handed, left-hand pitcher for the Mariners. I'm guessing that's Pudge Rodriguez, the catcher. Anyway,
I don't know. Is that? I don't think that's Pudge.
Oh, well.
I'm trying to look at again, this is pre-HD. So honestly, the color on that, the catcher's jersey could be 75 different colors. This is 93. So they're still in the blue. So it might be the white and blue. So
watching this game, going to this at bat, Kruk is having a great season. This is probably his last great season. And then he retires 2 years later. Randy Johnson's a young guy at this point. This whole at bat is just comical to me. This is my first memory of the All-Star game. It's just very comical, just based off of John Kruk's reaction. Now, Randy Johnson is a hard throwing left-hander, which you don't really see too much of that back then. But I mean, he could. He's 6'10". He has the length. He has the strength. He can really hurl it.
Yeah,
and it's very intimidating, especially back in 1993. And as you saw in that clip you just showed, that ball went sailing, and John Kruk was legitimately scared.
All right. I'll go. Let's just go through the whole at bat right now, or this whole point. It's not that long. Here we go.
Fanning himself off. Johnson has had pitches clocked at as much as 102 miles per hour in Major League Play.
That looks like a
This
Tay-Rod.
ball obviously just getting away from him, but watch the reaction of John Kruk. Would you say his heart is palpitating a bit?
When the second half resumes on Thursday.
Look at the next step. I don't blame
I mean, he's just ready to quit right now.
Oh yeah, because he's a lefty playing, going up against the toughest. Real quick, I want people to understand it might be new to baseball. So this is before interleague play, so they wouldn't play against each other. By the way, this is when I will say the one mistake Seattle went, and I know there's going to be 1,000 kids that, or 1,000 adults who were kids at this time will say they love this look. I never liked it when they went to this look. I thought I like the look they do now, or they kind of. I think every team that does it right incorporates all their past. We talk about that in football. Atlanta, I think, does that well. The LA Chargers is probably the best at, but I like the Mariners when they were the old Mariners. But John Kruk, if they were in the same league, would not play the day that Randy Johnson was pitching. He would take a day off because you're not going to have a lefty, if you can help it. You're not going to have the lefty at bat against Randy Johnson, because lefty versus lefty against him was a nightmare.
Baseball is one of those sports that it's heavy in chess match.
Yes.
Like per at bat, per player. The scouting report's ridiculous. As a football fan, I thought football was crazy complex, which it is, but baseball mentally has it beat, I feel, just because
I agree, dude.
It's superstitious. There's so many little tells you're looking at for a pitcher and a batter. Everybody has a certain thing they do, a tell of what they're going to do. So that part's kind of, if you ever have the time, just looking up certain baseball players, like just interviews, they're more than happy to share their knowledge, and
yeah,
it's pretty cool. So anyway, that last swing where he just swung like I would have done when I was 4 years old, that just does it for me, because like it was just a cherry on top.
All right, so let me see where we're at on this one.
I don't think so.
And that's the last one, I think.
Yeah.
John had no chance.
The little bow.
Yep.
And Johnson works
So this was in 93, and I want to all right, we'll get to that one in a minute, but I wanted to show this because I actually thought about this too late, and this is why it's not in the editing package. But in 1997, switch hitter Larry Walker. Oh, it is going to let me put it in here. That's new. Oh, that's a new thing they do. Awesome. So this is what he did. Let me go back. So he's a lefty righty, means he hits both ways. He goes up to Randy Johnson and does this.
He gets Larry Walker. I told you to hit right-handed. We were talking about it before the game.
Can't see.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay.
Earlier in the year in batting practice. And here he is. He's going to face him right-handed. Why not? Just turn it around. Why not? He looks like a catcher hitting. A lot of people don't remember that these two are former teammates coming up through the Expos organization. And now he's back to the left side. And
I love that he flipped his helmet when he was batting right-handed.
Yep. So I just thought that was all a fun connection, because Larry Walker obviously paying homage to John Kruk 3 years ago, and then doing it when, like they said, they came up in the minors together, so they had a thing. But anyway, so your next memory is one we kind of talked about a little earlier, and it's funny. I'm glad you brought this one up, because I feel that 94, 95 is where the home run derby really started to take off. And it was because you were having not only, home runs, but you were starting to see these 600-foot, well, not really 600, but 580 and all that. And I think it's funny because this is going to be an ongoing thing with our memories. Frank Thomas doesn't win this home run derby, but it's fun to watch what he's about to do. And he did it a lot, but it was especially this one.
He hits a lot of balls back through the middle and right side.
I was going to say, I think Ken Griffey wins this one, but I think Frank Thomas wins the one in Arlington the following season. This one was a big memory for me because this went almost 520 feet. and it hit the Will Clark sign that was up there. I don't think any ball has been hit that far in Three Rivers State. This was in the
All
old,
Three Rivers. Yep.
old Steeler of NFL, and then Pittsburgh Pirates of baseball. That was the old Three River Stadium. I just had never seen a ball hit that far before up until that point in time. So, and Frank Thomas was also, again, one of my favorite players because he was so big, but he played so finesse and had power. It was just, he was kind of like Ken Griffey in that regard, where he just could do almost everything, but he was just a big guy. Not as fast, but like he was just a patient hitter. He would always bat for over 300. He would take the walks. He
could have played football at the same time. People forget he was a college football player.
The dude was bigger than any baseball player for sure.
And if you look at how he hits, and this is what I find interesting and stuff, and we talk about it, and I don't know, there's something about how righties and lefties hit different, like the look. Like Juan Gonzalez and Frank Thomas both always looked like they were swinging at the outside pitch, even when it wasn't. Yeah. But then when you look at Ken Griffey and Will Clark and Ted Williams and Josh Hamilton, I don't know what it is about left-handed swings. They're pretty. Right-handed swings, like Frank Thomas's, tend to be violent. This isn't a majestic home run, even though it goes forever. There's nothing majestic about this. This son of a gun goes out like a rocket.
And it looks even more not pretty when you see it in slow motion too.
Oh,
yeah. And with the left-handed stance, with the left-handed batters, it's prettier also because as soon as they're finished their swing, they're already walking to first base. So it's kind of like a fluid motion. You can watch any Ken Griffey home run. And
that's a good point, actually. That's a really good point, especially the way Ken Griffey swung in his first step. It's why he was so good from home to first. It's why Mickey Mantle was so good from home to first as a lefty. I mean, Mickey Mantle was good as a righty too, but you want to talk about somebody, he's a Hall of Famer, and a lot of people consider him a top 10 player, but if Mickey Mantle doesn't get hurt and then therefore drink a ton and all that, we only touched the surface of what he could have done. But his home to first splits were mind-boggling even today. And it's because, like you said, the way he swung, he was already headed to first by the time the bat went around his waist.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so here's your next one.
Yeah, this is a 9. So this is something you're going to also bring up when you're talking about yours. This is the 99 All-Star game in Boston. Pedro Martinez is starting. This was, can you pause it real quick?
Yeah, hang on. I gotta get there.
I
forgot we had a whole All-Star game we're supposed to be watching too.
This is a great memory for me because in a power era where you had your McGuires, your Sammy Sosas, your Bonds, you had all these Juan Gonzalez, you had all these great power hitting players, and then from 1997 to about 2003. No one was more dominant, I feel, than Pedro Martinez. This little dude, this little pitcher would just school players. And he was strikeout machine, got 20 wins, ERA, a couple of years were under 2.0. But this was kind of on the big stage. It was and you're going to reference this later, like I said, Ted Williams was being honored. And
it wasn't. No, it wasn't actually Ted Williams. It was the All-Century team.
It was the All-Century team, but it's in Boston. Like Ted Williams was basically the star of the show.
Yes, but so let's get to your point. We'll get to that when I show it and I think I put it back to back with this, but we'll get to there. Keep talking why you like this moment specifically.
I just love how, because that point in time, to me, power pitching was better than power hitting. In my opinion, as a 14, 15-year-old kid, I loved it more because it was so hard to find. I loved Greg Maddux pitching because he was finesse but powerful. Pedro was both. And it was a 5-6 season period, but I can't think of any outside of Barry Bonds in the 2000s. I can't think of anyone that was more dominant than Pedro Martinez for that 97 to 03 period.
No, I totally agree. Even to the point, though, that he still, and I think this humanized him when he did the Yankees are my daddy. That that actually, and by the way, the one thing I hate about the All-Stars, and we'll talk about it, the All-Star uniforms are just terrible.
Yeah.
They need to be, and I know they won't because it's money, but even then, quit trying so hard. Like I'm watching the game now, by the way, it's second. It's 0-0, 2 outs in the top of the second. They did a lot right. Like I like the old style script that they use for the jerseys, kind of a Negro League look, but the colors just make no sense. Like there is nothing about that. I don't even know what you call that. I know technically it's a red, but there's nothing about the American League that makes me think Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I do like the hats. I will say that. I think the hats are really underrated. They remind me of an all-star hat. Like if you played baseball as a kid, you got all-star jerseys, and they remind me of that. But the uniforms, by the way, we go to the bottom of the second, 0-0. But anyway, let's go to your look. Let's go to Pedro. And by the way, if you wouldn't have said this one, this was one of my top memories too. This is actually probably one of the last like all-star games I truly was like, watching every minute of and like just really into. But Pedro Martinez just shows his dominance here, and it's coming up. We're getting through the last one, but what he did to start the first 2 innings of this one's absolutely amazing.
He struck out 5 amazing players in 2 innings.
And the one guy that got on, they got him out with a strike him out double play. Yeah. Thank you, Pudge Rodriguez, you Hall of Fame bastard, you.
And he strikes out Barry Larkin. Like he struck all 5 of these players are or should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Larkin, Larry Walker, Jeff Bagwell, Mark McGwire, and Sammy Sosa.
Now I'm sorry, I've got to show this. Okay, hang on, folks. This is why you don't have to throw 100. I know he's throwing 96, but he is throwing to one of the top 2 home run hitters of this era, top 10 all time. And this Pedro is so nasty. He's going to put a 96 miler right across the plate. Sammy Sosa thinks he's about to make some gold in the All-Star game. And at the last moment, that ball says, you know what? I'm going to run it on your hands. This is beautiful. Whoop. Oh, that is, if everybody wasn't watching, I'd be getting a little nasty right now. Cause there's nothing. Look, 100's fun. I love watching a power pitcher, but 96 and the ability to run it in on your hands, that's amazing. Especially when and I know it's an all-star game, but we can talk about the validity of do they care or not. I think they do. I think people don't understand how these people want to play well in front of the other peers and they want to look great doing it. To have the audacity to throw that pitch to Sammy Sosa and know you're going to get away with it. And then here's the second inning where he does it. And again, he did let one guy get on base, but he immediately throws him out.
When I talk about dominance, this is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
This was him for a good 6 seasons, and that's what put him in the Hall of Fame. The season they actually won the World Series in 2004, he was good, but his ERA was almost 4.0. So like you could see some wear and tear. He kind of bounced back the following season with the Mets in his first season. He had a really good year then.
Yeah.
But, to me, most dominant pitcher I've seen for that period of time.
All right, so here's what I was talking about, and I wanted to add this because this was going to be a memory of mine, and I figured, hey, I'll just add it to yours. So in 1999, the baseball MLB did their all-century team. I do miss 99. That was fun because everybody was doing that. ESPN had their 20th century show and all that, and Ted Williams is there. Now, if you don't know, Ted Williams did not have the greatest relationship with the Boston Red Sox fans. It was very much a love-hate. In fact, he talks about, he homers in his last bat, and he said, I'm rounding third. I just all I need to do is tip my hat to him, and I can't. I remember the booing. I remember all that. And so people didn't really know what was going to happen. And so when he came out, what makes this special to me is all this is very organic. Yeah. And this is what happened. He comes out and basically in one of those times where, life imitates art, he forgives the fans forgive him, and it's just amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, he wore the Red Sox uniform for 22 years. He wore the uniform of the United States Marines for 4.5 more. He owned left field at this very ballpark. He was the last man to hit 400 in a season, and he did it 58 years ago. He hit 521 home runs, including one on his last.
Again, that right there is symbolical. Him lifting the hat. That I'm telling you, I don't know why. I think Ken Burns baseball. I mean, I was always a baseball guy, but Ken Burns baseball, when it came out, and they do this whole section on him, the appreciation, and I hate to say this, but maybe as a fan of someone like Tony Romo, somebody like Dak Prescott, who does everything right in the regular season, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work when it get to the playoffs. And that was Ted Williams. Hey, they did, back then you only made it, you got in, and it was it.
Who also had the number 9.
And he also, I didn't think about that. Good point. And Ted Williams, famously in his one World Series, did not play or did not hit well. But anyway, him raising the hat, that just, I don't know, chills every day.
Step back. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the greatest hitter that ever lived, number 9, Hall of Famer, baseball legend, Ted Williams.
And then his family are right over his head. There's those old Astros uniforms that they went through for about 5 years. That's a little bit long. But yeah, so just I still think baseball, for whatever reason, the tingle moments are just so much easier or whatever. There's something about baseball that it just, you get these moments and you realize in the moment how awesome the moment is. And that just makes it even more special.
Man, just watching this always makes me want to go back and think about some of my favorite baseball moments. I know we're just talking about All-Star tonight, but thinking about Cal Ripken breaking the streak, the games played streak in '95. Man, this is a great moment, just especially when you know the history behind it. Ted Williams is still regarded as probably the best pure hitter of all time in MLB.
Yeah.
Obviously, who was on the field here. Him and Cal Ripken both retired 2 years later, but they're still ticking.
Oh man,
1999.
Tony Gwynn's not ticking.
Well, yeah.
And that does, again, we are at the age, especially me, and I mean, you're not far behind, where, players that played just a few years ago. And I mean, hell, Tony Gwynn's been dead, 10 years now? Actually, more than that.
I think he died in, 2014 or so.
Yeah, I think it was 2014. Yeah, because Kirby Puckett died in 2011 or something. Anyway, we are at that age where some of these guys that played, all the old guys on here except for Eddie Murray are basically dead. And then you've got players that actually played that are dead. And that does mean a lot more.
Yeah, it really does. I remember the Tigers always sucking when I played. I've just seen that one Detroit player. Yeah, I'm just thinking about how bad they were up until.
I'm trying to think of, I know who that is too, and I can't think of who it is.
It could be like Travis Fryman or something. I don't know who it is.
I think it might be Travis Fryman. There's George
Brett. Yeah.
Oh, he was a part of, George Brett.
Think about great MLB moments. The Pine Tar incident.
Yeah, I still hate that because I know everybody hates the Yankees, but I mean, no, I don't know. I never liked any of that because the dude broke the rule. Like, did he have pine tar above the level? Yes. Okay, then that's the rule. I love the moment. It's fun to watch him come out of the dugout, but I just always thought that was kind of a, I don't know. Just anyway. But anyway, so this isn't really one of your moments, but it kind of is a piggyback. So I'm trying to find the next one. So anyway, and this was what made it special. All the players came around him. They all talked to him, and baseball had the wherewithal to let it happen. You don't have any, I don't know if this happens now. I think you see somebody from Fox going, y'all got to get off, y'all got to go. We got to start the game.
Yeah, that is a good point because producers they're on a time constraint. So they're going, okay, we only have 10 seconds. Move on to the next, cut to the next camera. Like it is very stringent. But yeah, here they just knew the moment. They saw the crowd reaction. They saw the player reaction. And I think the producers did a great job in just pivoting and letting just it happen. Announcers not really saying anything. Some of the great announcers, they just, if the moment's there, they'll just shut up and just watch and also enjoy.
You bring up the Ripken thing, and it was special no matter what. But I think what made that even more special and kind of the beginning of the healing of baseball was when he runs around the stands and for 30 minutes is giving high fives and all that. Boy, would it have been funny if he twisted his ankle right then and had to immediately the very next day. But no, but yeah, I mean, that again, that's the thing about baseball. And before anybody says, yeah, the pitch clock's ruined that, you can still have these moments because both of these moments were outside of the pitch clock. Baseball still has that ability to take its time, to enjoy the moment, to allow everybody to understand what the moment is and to feel it and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And you're about to bring up the next one, which I think is a very much modern day, one of the top 5 baseball moments. And this is why the home run derby has proven it is what it is now. And it's fun. And I think it's a fabric of the game. And of course, we're speaking of Josh Hamilton's, I think, the greatest home run derby performance in the history of the home run derby.
Ooh, you're going out of chronological order.
Am I?
Sexy.
What was your next one?
2002.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is where we're at. I'm sorry. So, yeah, sorry. I'm not. I was out of order. You're out of order. The whole court's out of order. Sorry. No, so this is 2002. This is not a top. I will be honest. I do have a top moment from this game, but it's a fun moment. I don't understand why this is a top moment for you because this is a dark stain on baseball. Set the table.
2002 All-Star Game in Milwaukee.
I think that's the only reason you like it.
Hey, Bud Selig, baseball commissioner, also the owner of the.
Never been commissioner, by the way.
Yes, there's an inherent bias here because Bud Selig.
There was actually a rule, and they pushed the rule aside to let him. So it used to be an owner could not be a commissioner. I wonder why. That makes a lot of sense. I will say this though, give him credit. He didn't do anything to help Milwaukee during that time because it ain't like they went on a tear or anything while he was the commissioner, but you weren't supposed to be able to be a commissioner and an owner. They allowed it for him. And you know what? I didn't like him, but to be honest, he didn't really do anything that bad. People can say, well, he didn't pay attention to the PEDs. That was the best thing that happened to baseball, folks. But this was a terrible moment in the All-Star history.
So the game is tied 7-7. The top of the fun game. And the moment you're going to bring up later, it was one of my favorite all-time moments of the All-Star game. But in this case, Joe Torre, Bob Brenly, the managers for the AL and NL respectively, went to Bud Selig. They're top of the 11th. They're running out of pitchers. And it's 7-7, and they're talking to Bud Selig trying to figure out, okay, how do we finish this game? We don't want to exhaust these pitchers. It will be
fair
unfair.
Point, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It would be unfair to those teams. As Vicente Padilla, who probably should have, he probably deserved it for other reasons. But Freddie Garcia, great young pitcher at that time, ended up winning a World Series with the White Sox in 2005. They were both pitching in the top of the 11th inning, and there was no more pitchers left. They all pitched, they all finished. So that was it.
Because back then, so this was when, thankfully we're back to the All-Star being an exhibition game. And by the way, I will always say that the Rangers probably lost the World Series because of the rules. But this led to the All-Star meaning something for a few years. But before then, you just basically, you threw your starter 2 innings and then you let everybody pitch. That was the whole point. You're at the All-Star game. Everybody pitches because normally somebody would break through and you wouldn't have a tie. But unfortunately for this one, they had a tie.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was Bud Selig said, hey, I'm pivoting. If this game and it still is a tie at the end of the 11th inning, I'm going to call the game. And he has been taking a lot of L's, as the kids say, with his team and the fans. And this was just the cherry on the top. And they, threw beer cans onto the field. They had a lot of inappropriate chants going on. And sure enough, the game ended in a tie. And after this, they decided to implement a rule from 2003 to 2016 where the winner of the All-Star game gets home field advantage in the World Series. And that does play a factor going forward. And it does bring some importance to the All-Star game. But
It wasn't fun though. Like I
It
never
wasn't fun. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it really wasn't fun at all. And we're
3
getting
nothing.
spammed.
3 we are.
Yep, comments are coming in.
Oh wow! I'm convinced that your videos are made with a touch of magic. Oh, thank you. But hey, look at this. You guys have reignited my determination to succeed. Dude, if I'll drink the coverage on a random Tuesday night, us a little drunk, has got you ready to succeed, well, good luck to you. But anyway, so yeah. So here's the last part of that inning. It's nothing special. I remember thinking, oh, we're going to have a tie. Oh, that's a beautiful pitch. Freddie Garcia. Golly, he was an underrated pitcher.
Yeah.
Beautiful drop right there. But yeah, so this led to them. And by the way, it sucked, but it was the right decision.
Update on the current All-Star game. Shohei Ohtani just hit a 3-run home run, and the NL is up 3-0.
Do you remember who hit the big home run the last time this game was in Texas?
Jeff Conine.
There you go. Florida Marlins' own Jeff Conine. So I'm pulling up your next one.
So this is the 2008 Home Run Derby in old Yankee Stadium. This is the last year of Yankee Stadium before the Yankees go to their new stadium, which they won the World Series that very first year. It gave A-Rod his one and only championship. So this is the last year in the old Yankee Stadium, very historic. I remember this mainly because of Josh Hamilton and his first round exploits. I think he hit about 28 home runs in the first round. He didn't win the home run derby because he basically got gassed after the first round. But it ended up being historic because I think Justin Morneau, all-star hitter for the Twins, he ended up winning. He was the first Canadian to ever win the home run derby.
Well, and he even admitted, he's like, yeah, this, I mean, we all are going to remember this. And that's the fun thing about the home run derby. It's a lot like the slam dunk contest. It's not always about who wins. In fact, one of my memories is going to be literally, we're going to show what everybody remembers as the iconic moment, but then we're going to show you who actually won the home run derby, because it was pretty good too, but it just didn't quite reach that moment. And I think that's Justin Morneau here. Like, he was perfectly proficient, kind of like his career, but Hamilton stole the night, and it was such a redemptive arc. This is a guy that was considered the next Mickey Mantle, and then he went through Mickey Mantle's, trials and tribulations, which 10 times harder with meth and drugs. And then, Texas basically traded Edison Volquez and a couple pints of beer for him. And he ends up, at least for a 5-year period, you could put his 5 years up with anybody in baseball. There's a 5-year period where Josh Hamilton is the best baseball player in the game, and it really wasn't even close.
Yeah, this home run derby made Yankee fans drool because they felt, oh, the Rangers aren't going to keep him. We're just going to overpay and get him, and he's going to lead us to multiple championships. I just remember that being said a lot during this first round, especially because, like you said, in 2007, he was with the Cincinnati Reds and had a pretty solid half season. He basically played like the second half of the season, got about 20 home runs, almost 50 RBIs, and then the Rangers got him. 2008, had 130 RBIs his first year with the Rangers. Like just a crazy, ridiculously great season.
I think everybody thinks that Josh Hamilton showed up in 2010 because that's when the Rangers, started making World Series and started making playoffs. Yeah. But even I was like, oh yeah, this home run derby was a couple years before. Because even in my mind, I thought, oh, it's 2010. That's when the Rangers exploded. But the crazy thing is 2008, you knew they were there because you had him, you had Ian Kinsler. I think Michael Young was there. I mean, you had a lot of Rangers for a team that I think won like 72 games or something like that. But he was drafted by Tampa Bay.
Pretty close. They won 79.
Yeah, and it was yeah. We both are nerds on our numbers and stuff. But he was drafted by Tampa Bay. He was going to be the next phenom. He crashed out. Cincinnati picked him up basically like as a what the hell, let's try it. The Rangers basically traded him for what the hell, let's try it. And man, there was a time, and he wins the MVP in 2010. There was a time where it felt like he had figured it out. And the worst mistake he made was going to the Angels. And it's not, oh, he just went to the Angels. It's because they did not require him to have somebody there to watch him. Oh, wait, I got that for you here in a minute. Your last memory, because I'm going to hate you for this one. But the one thing, the reason why Josh Hamilton worked as a Ranger was because the Rangers made him have a guy that basically lived with him. And even then he failed late. Let's all not forget, you know, he got found, was it Fox and Hound in Plano? And you know, and I felt bad for him. And it's tough. But man, you know, since then he's made some really bad decisions and all. And I hope he always, you know, figures it out. But honestly, I think the way he ended is why, even with the, you know, the success, but that, you know, the last out loss to the Cardinals, but also the way Josh Hamilton kind of burned out, it just always left that era of the Rangers with a lot of good memories, but also just kind of a bad taste at the end.
Yeah, and it's just one of those, like, you really are rooting for him to succeed. You really are. I just feel like he was just one of those guys. Like, it's just like an American story, like a redemptive arc, if you will. Like,
Exactly.
He was at the bottom of the bottom, worked his way back up in his mid-20s, kind of figured it out. And as long as he had someone around him, like his wife stuck around with him for as long as she possibly could, for probably a few years after she probably should have. It's a very sad story, and I really feel that eventually it'll become a movie. It's just such a fascinating story. I really wish Hamilton the best, because he seems like just a decent guy overall. It's just, man, those demons.
He did, but at times he also, I don't know. Let's go ahead and move on. All right. So your last memory or your last good thing is more of a compilation. And so I brought this to you. Here you go.
Over? Yes. Oh, it was over.
There. But it's fun watching him. Again, left-hander. I wish this was in HD. I tried to find it in HD. The bombs he was dropping, man, like.
So this is me loving Chris Berman. ESPN.
Way back! Way back! Way back! Way back!
You love Chris Berman. It's okay, dude. Dude, whoever did this, well played.
Way back! It is back!
He sounds like almost like a duck. Back.
Well, like with the head moving, it reminds me of South Park and like their depiction of Canadians.
Yeah, I think that might have been the idea. And by the way, I want to say this. I like Chris Berman. Chris Berman is an icon of sports. I think you credit him with a reason why we love sports.
Yep.
Him and Tom Jackson on the NFL side. I love the nicknames, and I actually love back.
I wish NFL Primetime was back. No,
yeah, it kind of is. It's on. You have to find it online though, and it's Chris and Booger.
I want Tom Jackson,
Booger
McFarlane. Tom Jackson.
No, I agree. He came back during the pandemic. Remember that first year they brought it back? Tom Jackson was there. I watched every episode, and you know how bad that was because the Cowboys sucked that year because that's when Dak broke his ankle and all. And 2020. I still watched it. But where I did get tired of the back was the home run derbies, because it's like, I get it, but like, turn it off at that point. Like, and it's funny because when I was watching 94 and 95, when the game was during the day, or the All-Star home run derby was during the day, he wasn't he would do it a couple times, but he didn't. By 2012, I think when that video was, and he was kind of winding down, he was starting to get, it just got wrong. But I will admit, I love the back in the day. Back in the day.
I just loved it. I loved his animation. Like, I guess as a kid, it spoke to me more, and it was in the summer, and it was during the day. I had nothing else to do. I mean, I was going to either play outside or watch that. So, I mean, I ended up doing both.
And right there, what you just said, and what I just said too, this is where sports on TV ruins itself. And I get it. But I went to the 94 home run derby during the day. It was fun during the day. The problem was that got got people started watching. And they're like, well, let's put it on night, and I have no problem with it night. And like in certain places, like let's be honest, as much as I miss the ballpark in Arlington, the All-Star game is not here without an indoor stadium, because you think those players wanted to pop out tonight at 105 degrees? No, they didn't. And so you have to accept that. But I miss it being in the day. There was just something fun about it being 3:00 on a Monday, and if you were young enough like you, or if you worked a job like I did overnight, and I was up to watch these things, and you felt like you were kind of special because you didn't realize there was 10 million other people watching it. But yeah, I do miss when those were during the day. All right, so let me give us a score update as I pull the other ones in.
You got it, sir. It is 3-2 NL. In the bottom of the third inning, Juan Soto doubled to center, scoring Stephen Kwan and Marcus Semien. So now it's 3-2 NL. Let's see who gave up those runs. Skeens didn't have a strikeout, but he had one inning. He had 16 pitches. He had a ball, or he walked a player, but
it's 3-2 now.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you. My bad.
Yeah, Juan Soto, 2-run double to center. Stephen Kwan, Marcus Semien scored.
David Fry from Colleyville, Texas, is up right now, at least on my screen.
Logan Webb allowed those runs for the NL.
Oh, real quick. By the way, I'm having to upload the video. I thought I uploaded earlier, so just give it a few seconds. You're talking about you felt like Toronto had kind of reached the end with this talent group. Doesn't it feel like San Diego and them have literally had like the same trajectory, where you like, if you'd have told me in 2016 that for the next 4 years it would be, San Diego and Toronto creating this rivalry, and they've been to, we're about to have a tie. Nope, he's gonna. Oh yeah, he is. Ooh. I don't know who that was that scored, but he was loafing it and he got lucky.
You had some good reactions there, sir.
Thank you. But didn't it feel like there was about to be this new rivalry of San Diego and Toronto for like the next 5 out of 7 World Series? And now both of them are like, where are we at now? And they're in that weird, like you brought up earlier, they're in that weird no man's land. Like you want to make a change, but you feel like if I start trading these guys, they're going to start figuring it out in other places, and we're going to look really, really stupid for letting them go.
Yeah, I think San Diego's in a better spot this season just because of how weak the wild card is right now. I agree. So I think, and especially with Profar, former Ranger Jurickson Profar,
a dude that was considered a can't miss, one of the top prospects of all time, folks. If you think I'm kidding, go look back. There's a reason why the Rangers didn't make a couple trades they probably should have at the time, but at the time I understood it. And he's turned out to have a hell of a really solid career. But yeah, he was supposed to be, this is a future all-star, blah, blah, or future all-star MVP and all. And that's why baseball's so fun. You just never know where these prospects are going to go.
Cleveland Guardians catcher David Fry. I didn't realize this. He's from Colleyville, Texas.
That's what I said earlier.
I didn't realize this.
Oh yeah.
This is also a thing that's a big change in baseball. He's 28 years old, but he's only had 2 years of experience in baseball, or in the MLB. He played a little under 60 games for Cleveland last season, and this is kind of his first full season in the big leagues. And now he's also. It seems to be like a growing trend of players spending a lot more time in the minors, and then 24, 25, now they're in the majors.
Well, you say that, but like, I don't know. I feel like that's just something that's always kind of been there. Let's go back to what you were talking about. I think Jose Ramirez, he kind of reminds me of like Ruben Sierra before the Rangers were solid, where nobody realizes how good this guy is. Now they're doing it because Cleveland's actually playing well. But in that era between when they went to the last World Series and when they've kind of been just, fair to middling, this is a guy that's really anchored them.
Because I think he was the guy that hit the 3-run home run to tie the game, and I think it was like 6-3. He had a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 8th to tie the game in Game 7. that was the year before he actually became a big time star. And that was also, I think, the same night as the presidential election between Hillary and
Yep, it
Donald
was.
Trump.
Yep, I
So,
remember because me and Grant were doing a show, and I spent the whole time talking with Grant and watching watching the game on my thing. All right, so I'm about to have a guy come in. It's just me. I'm trying to upload my all-star memories. So if it's, I don't know if this is going to actually come. Okay, I don't think it will. I'm trying to upload my all-star memories, and I'm having some issues. So keep talking. Talk about the game, whatever you want to talk about.
well, hey, Jose Ramirez, I think, just to finish off that conversation, I think he'll finish in the top 5, top 3. I think as far as MVP goes this season, he's just been very consistent since that 2016 World Series. Another 3-4 years, we'll start thinking about him as a Hall of Fame candidate. Yeah, he's just been that good for that long.
I think he's going to get lost in that, and this is where baseball kind of sorts itself out. Because you have guys like him, and like I said, Ruben Sierra, if you go look at his career, really, really good. Juan Gonzalez, just bringing up Rangers because we have Ranger, we're a Ranger show.
Yeah.
And I got to talk about that here in a little bit. We'll talk about Texas two-seam in the future a bit. But baseball always averages that out because those guys that seem like they're headed that way, they either hit it or then they kind of fall off. And I could see him kind of falling off, but I do like the fact, maybe it's because I have friends from Cleveland, and maybe at Major League. I think Major League really does. I think the movie Major League made a ton of us Cleveland fans. And it's so funny to think about when you listen to the commentary and how hard it was to find a team that they could use because nobody wanted to be associated as that loser. But I think it made, it also helped that like literally 4 years after the movie came out, Cleveland all of a sudden got really, really good. But I also think it made them people found them as fans because they watched that movie. Speaking
yes.
Out at first, Carew at second.
Oh, here we go.
So this is I'm a little older, and so I want to go ahead and give my part of this. We talked earlier to you about what you loved and all that as a baseball fan. I grew up, my love of baseball is my mom and dad. My mom and dad to this day watch every Ranger game. If there's a national game on, they usually will catch that too. They're big sports fans. We talked about that in the Washington football show. But baseball is very much all my life. We spent vacations going to the Rangers and Astros because I played baseball late into the season and we didn't have time to really go do like the trips that other people did because of baseball. So being a Ranger fan, yes, I was an Astro fan too as a kid, but I always leaned to the American League. And in 1983, the American League had lost like 9 in a row. I had never, I was only like 7 at this point, so it wasn't like I'd seen a lot of them, but I'd never seen the American League win. And Freddie Lynn of the Baltimore Orioles, Boston Red Sox, excuse me, then traded to the Angels, kind of one of those, what are you doing trades? And he is a stud, and this is what he did. It's the first and only, I just want to let the video play. Why is it doing this? It's being weird tonight. Here we go.
Third, 2 out.
Base has been loaded.
And he drives it to deep right. Back goes Murphy, away back, and there it is, the first grand slam in All-Star history.
Adeline Hammaker, former three-sport baseball player.
Here's his time at bat. Watch the reaction. He knows he touched it off. He's watching it.
Pretty cool.
Funny. It's funny. We were talking about earlier about, how baseball does and enjoy the moment. It's so funny though. In 1983, the first grand slam, they're going to show a side angle and they're going to move on to the next batter.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's just, but I think over the years, producers,
they overproduce.
Yeah. But they got better over time, I would say. Fred Lynn, he had an interesting story. He's, won the MVP in 75 in his actually first full season as a player. He was the Rookie of the Year and the MVP that season in 75. They also went to the World Series that season and had that epic 7-game series against the Red Sox. The Cincinnati Reds. Yeah, Carlton
Maybe
Fisk.
the best World Series of all time.
Ooh, hot take. Oh, not really a hot take. It probably was. Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean, and part of it is because you had hit an era where TV was better. I mean, I know it wasn't HD, folks, but man, like growing up in non-HD, that was still pretty damn good. Like you could see everything and all that. The only reason these videos look so bad now is because they're on HD screens.
Yeah.
And so the particling and all that pixelation and stuff. But like 75, the Carlton Fisk, the famous, stay fair, stay fair. I mean, again, that's one of those seminal moments that brought people to baseball.
Man, feel sorry for Fred Lynn, man. He went to Baltimore in '85, 2 years after they won their last World Series.
I was thinking about.
And then he went to Detroit in '88 in a trade from Baltimore.
4 years after they'd won. And they were still, Detroit was still, Detroit 80s. That's one of those, why didn't they win more? Like
and the '87 team might have been just as good, if not better than the '84 team, but they ran into a randomly hot Twins team in the playoffs.
Dan Gladden and the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
I used to have a poster on that. But all right, so that's number one for me, 1983. And by the way, honorable mention for me is every All-Star I saw as a kid. Like that was I'm serious. That was such a big moment. Like I can remember, I still remember, I think this was 1987. And I was over at a friend's house, Rocky Hargis, and we would go and we would watch an inning of the All-Star game, and then we'd go out in the yard and play wiffle ball. And then we'd go back in and watch an inning of the All-Star game. We'd go back outside and play wiffle ball. And I mean, you built, and I know my dad's listening. I kind of think that our little league back then actually always made sure there wasn't games played on the All-Star game. I feel like that we everybody was at home watching that. So anyway, so 83 is my first one. 89. This isn't a game. By the way, Nolan Ryan got the win in this one. This is because Bo Jackson and also Wade Boggs, but everybody forgets the Wade Boggs part of this. But this is Bo Jackson telling the world how great he could have been.
Bo Jackson making the catch on the ball hit by Guerrero to prevent further damage. And now the American League will be coming up, leading.
Oh man, I
with
miss
the National
you.
League leading 2-0.
Vin Scully, the other guy.
Okay. Up, we talked about Ozzie Smith and
the
you
former President Ronald Reagan.
Jackson does baseball and football, and you did football.
Yes.
I missed that voice.
I played for real in a much earlier time.
I'm coming home.
But that Bo down there, that's a pretty
Bo
interesting
Jackson,
hobby.
that's Rick Russo. By the way, the funniest thing is, I noticed this. So my first two memories are home runs against Giants pitchers. Maybe there's a reason why the Rangers lost to the Giants. And by the way, I said this earlier, Shreveport. I was a fan of the Shreveport Captains, which was a minor league team of the San Francisco Giants.
Oh, okay. Never knew that.
Yeah, so for 20 years. And Shreveport was really good. Like they won multiple Texas League titles, all that. But yeah, it was always weird. Like I was a big fan of the Astros, but their biggest rival at that time was the Giants. I mean, in the 80s, man, it was the Dodgers in the early 80s, the Astros and the Giants. They were all battling. And so it was weird rooting for these guys until they went to the Giants and then hating them. But this is all about Bo Jackson. And Wade Boggs, but nobody remembers that. Bo Jackson
winds up playing football. I don't know if there's ever been anyone doing it.
Hey, he's remarkable.
Okay, you know how he went back on the pitch earlier?
Yeah.
I want you to watch this pitch seriously. This is a really good pitch by Rick Ruschel. This gets 90% of the batters out. Watch where he hits this.
Playing football. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
You feel like that, didn't you?
It had some curvature. It went down low. It looked like it was going to go over the plate, knee high, and it went really low. And he still crushed it. Amazing.
So what Rick Ruschel is throwing there is called a split finger fastball. Roger Craig, the manager of the Giants at this time, was a pitching coach and a pitcher.
Not to be confused with the all-pro running back for the San Francisco 49ers.
I never realized that. Wow, that's funny. But he taught a split-fingered pitch. Mike Scott, Astros Cy Young winner, that's what he threw. And the split finger in the 1980s, I mean, it's big now, but in the 80s, it was, I mean, you'd never seen it because it looked like a fastball, but then broke. The thing about a curve and even a slider, which, you know, there was a time in the 70s where they thought about outlawing the slider. Think about that. Even the slider has a little bit of arc to it before it breaks. The split finger doesn't. And so I go back to this again because this is an amazing pitch. Like, I would love to ask Rick Rochelle if he didn't think when he let go of that ball, I just struck Bo Jackson out.
In football, and you
And
did football.
Bo Jackson does this.
Played the Gipper, but I also played
Now,
for real.
this is what, July of '89, right?
Yeah.
But, that bow
So
down there, that's a
Ronald
pretty
Reagan has
interesting hobby he
finished
has
his
for
2
his
terms
vacation
in
when
office. This
baseball
is his
ends,
first
he
year
winds
taking a
up,
break, essentially.
playing
Papa
football.
Bush is in his one and only term as president. So that's why, you know, Reagan looks a little bit refreshed for his
exactly.
age.
Good point. Good point.
He already served 8 years, and then Bo Jackson just destroys. No one was built like Bo Jackson back in the late 80s, man. It's crazy. 89 and 90, his 89 season with the Royals, and then his 90 season with the LA Raiders. Crazy. It's just so sad he had that injury in the playoff game against the Bengals.
Well, you know, it's funny. We talked about with Mickey Mantle. We talked about with Josh Hamilton. I think there's something to the – will we ever see the true perfect baseball player? I think we've seen a lot of iterations, but for whatever reason, they're outside of Barry Bonds type, they're never able to stay healthy enough.
Trout was
Trout's
on that level, yeah.
And Mike Trout's a Hall of Fame player. He will make the Hall of Fame.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. If he retired today, Mike Trout makes the Hall of Fame.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with that, but yeah, okay.
So here's the thing about baseball. And this is one of the things I still love about baseball. Baseball still doesn't force you to have titles to be successful.
True.
Like, baseball is still the one Hall of Fame. Well, basketball doesn't count because basketball's Hall of Fame is just way different. And I don't mean that's a bad thing. It's just way different. But baseball's Hall of Fame is how great you were. And this is a guy that won 2 MVPs, has been top 5 in like 5 other times, probably could legitimately have won it every year, just pure stats wise. And if he retired today, it's because of injuries. So he makes it. I really see Trout doing a Ken Griffey where he's going to play another 5 to 10 years. He's not going to be great, but he's going to be good enough. I mean, he's already got 389 home runs. So I see it, or 378 home runs. He's 50 away from 1,000 RBIs. He has 212 stolen bases. So let's say he just plays 5 more years and he hits 25 home runs. Yeah. That's going to put him up there at 500.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think, and also baseball is the one sport where longevity never hurts you. That's the thing about other sports. Like, I'm sorry, he was MVP 3 times. Yeah, you win the MVP 3 times.
Yeah, honestly, the 2010s he was relatively healthy. It was you know, going into after the COVID year 2020. That's when he started having the rash of it. The 3 of the last 4 years, he hasn't played he hasn't even played half a season.
I'll tell you what, man. It feels like he might have had way more of a Ken Griffey career than we realized. Because if you look at Ken Griffey, man, he stayed healthy from 1989 to 2000. He had the 1 year in 95. I think that's when he broke his, I think it was wrist or ankle. He was going for a catch and he broke it. And other than that, though, he's fine. He played a lot of games his first year with the Cincinnati Reds. He played 145. And then he went 111, and then 70, and then 53, and then 83. But then Ken Griffey in 2005 kind of got that uptick again where he was playing 100 games. If you look at Trout, man, he feels like he's going in that same era where, you know, for about 5 years he didn't play a lot of games, but if he can find himself to get healthy, get on, you know, and all that, yeah, I definitely think he's a Hall of Famer. But anyway, so let's not remember the second part. Nobody remembers that Wade Boggs went back to back, and that was actually the historic thing about this. First time I think it was a home run or all-star back to back.
No, the historic thing about
All-Star
Wade
games
Boggs
have all
is
been
his
hit by
alleged
the American League.
airplane.
And boy, that thing was
27,
really crushed.
37, 47 beer.
You were talking earlier
Now,
about how baseball makes you feel
hang on.
young. Rick Russell, the pitcher, is 40 years old. He is almost the
Dang, Russell is 40 years old here?
Yeah, so that was the thing. So Roger Craig, that's one of the things he did. He always seemed to have older pitchers as a starter. He was a big believer in the veteran starter. You're going to give me 7. It's not going to be pretty. You've seen Major League, right?
Yeah.
You remember the pitcher that puts all the stuff on his body because he lost his fastball?
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, that's actually, again, go back to 86 and the Mets and talking about Mike Scott. They always claim that his split finger was scuffed. Probably was, because that's what Roger Craig was kind of, I mean, but that's what he wanted. He wanted that guile that you give me 6 tough innings. But let's bring up what you're talking about. So Wade Boggs, legendary, supposedly could drink like 70 beers on a flight. That's impressive, but you also got to remember there was a time when the beer was like a 6-ounce can. We're not talking about a tall boy like today. It's 24 ounces. Again, still impressive, but I kind of feel like that probably had a lot to do with it.
So Rick Rochelle's 89 season, he was 40 at this point. 17-8 with a 2.94 ERA. This was his last great season. Yep. He played 2 more seasons with the not 49ers, with the Giants, and then he retired at 42.
That's why he sucked. He played football after that.
Anyway, go ahead. Continue.
Mm-hmm.
What do you? Oh, sorry. As you were drinking.
I'm drinking what? What do you mean? I'm just hydrating, sir. By the way, we still got 5,700 people 3 hour. 2
Why? Thank you. I mean, but why? Thank you.
There goes Wade Boggs.
I always thought his swing was like so.
Oh God, beautiful, dude.
So you say beautiful, like it always seemed like he was like off balance anytime he hit the ball.
But
he did this like little thing.
Look up Charlie Lau, Lauw. He is one of the most famous hitting coaches at that time.
Okay.
And he taught anybody that what you call drove the baseball but didn't hit a ton of home runs. Charlie Lau probably taught him. He taught where your hands were really big, keep them at the shoulder length. You don't give up. You don't give up your hit to just hit the ball hard. And that was part of what was funny about this was like Wade Boggs. I mean, he hit good home runs. It wasn't like Wade Boggs had no power, but you didn't think of Wade Boggs as a power guy.
Okay.
I can't remember what my next one is actually.
Yeah. I never thought of him as a power guy. He was the 300 batter, consistent, long term. And then, for me, I always think of him as finally getting that World Series with the Yankees in '96, riding that horse around
Eric Davis, dude. God,
one of your favorite players.
Yes,
in our early years of our friendship, I remember you talking about him several times.
Yeah, he was a guy that was on the way to a Hall of Fame career. He was one of the first guys that wore high tops as cleats. That was so amazing. Yeah. He played for a Reds team that was always fun. Of course, we remember when they upset the A's and beat them. Lou Piniella was the manager. Okay, we'll go to the next one, man. But yeah, Eric Davis, and again, he's another guy. Injuries just took him. He went to the Dodgers, and he just never was the same. But he was fun to watch. He was athletic. Yep. He hit and stole the ball. Stole bases. He was part of that era where you did both. But anyway, so this is what we were talking about earlier. My next memory. We always talk about the home run derby, and the home run derby is a lot like the slam dunk, where sometimes the most iconic thing doesn't even win. And so I go back to, Camden Yards, and this is definitely a top 10, I think, at least home run derby moment.
You didn't have to wait for them. Even the outfielders knew they were going out of the park.
They sure did. One thing, too, sir,
right.
This time of day, when it's very hot, the ball really carries anyway. Not that either of those needed any breaks. They were both hit
I can barely hear you, but you sound like you're panicking.
No, I was laughing. Okay, so I got to go back again because
this is the 93 All-Star game. This is the home run derby.
At Camden Yards, and as you talked about earlier, Camden Yards had just been opened. Camden Yards still to this day is beautiful, even though they've had to make some changes.
Yeah.
In fact, they've done the home run thing now. They've lengthened the field. But this was a great moment. Ken Griffey Jr. in the home run derby. He does something that has I don't know if anybody else has ever done this before, but he hits the warehouse in right field.
Yeah. I think that might have been the first time.
I think it's the only time. And that's iconic. But he doesn't win the home run derby. Juan Gonzalez wins the home run derby.
Yeah, 93. Yeah. I think, yeah. It was Juan Gonzalez.
In fact, what people don't remember is the first few years, Ruben Sierra and Juan Gonzalez both won home run derbies. And then Josh Hamilton had his home run. The Rangers have a good, we all know that even if you're not a Ranger fan, I think most people realize, they were a team that has always just consistently been a home run team. Yeah, and back then, the home run derby, man, that was part of them. But nobody remembers that Juan Gonzalez won this because, again, Ken Griffey did this. But the thing is, Juan Gonzalez, man, he was hitting some bombs. But I go back to what we were talking about earlier, that there's just something different about a left swinging power hitter compared to like watch Juan Gonzalez right here. This is some beautiful swings.
Man, for a righty too.
And I missed that Ranger top, by the way. I would not mind going back to that.
Beautiful.
So yeah, he wins the home run. By the way, he won the home run with 7, and then they tied, and then he hit the 8th one to win. Think about that now. 8 home runs. And one of the things, just like the slam dunk contest, the home run derby rules have changed from time to time. And I think you have to do that. You have to change it up. I do think home runs still are fun. I think with the slam dunk contest, the problem is no matter what, we haven't had a breakthrough on what kind of dunk you can do. You can still only do certain ones.
I'm still waiting for someone to do a 360 dunk.
Like a true 360?
Corey Maggette did a 360 flip to get the ball and then make a dunk, which was impressive. And I know it's impossible because you're doing a 360 flip and you got to be 10 feet in the air to make the dunk. But that is the one dunk I would be looking forward to seeing. And I think us as humans can do it.
Human?
Man, just looking like this is so 90s. Just looking at Juan Gonzalez's haircut. He has a stash, which the stash is back. The NL All-Star starter pitching, Paul Skeens, rookie, who's been like the talk of the town in baseball this season. He's rocking the stash.
By the way, I want to bring this up real quick. You just said something. Baseball right now is in a youth explosion in a good way. Yes. I think baseball, with the rule changes they made, and shut up if you're an old timer and the game in 1980 was not like the game was in 2017 when every at bat seemed like every in between pitch was 3 minutes. The timing is great, but what's more important is there's younger players and you're starting to see an uptick in average, more stolen bases and all that fun stuff. Now, this one I'm going to show you is a lost, I think is forgotten. And I guess I'll have to show the other one. I meant to tie this in with another one.
Julio, is that Hank Blaylock?
Hank Blaylock.
Oh, wow.
Hang on. I'm going to have to pull up the other one because the other one actually, for me personally, means a little bit more. And that's 1991.
Okay.
Julio Franco on a rain night won the All-Star MVP when he hit like a 2-out double. I think it was.
Was this in San Diego in 91?
No, it was in Chicago.
Chicago. Okay, sorry.
Hang on. No, I don't want final big hit. Oh, golly, hang on. I don't know how this didn't get in the package, but I was also doing a lot of stuff today. So, and by the way, Julio Franco is one of those dudes that played forever. Or maybe it wasn't 91. Wait, what year was it? Maybe
him and Ricky Henderson played a long time.
Keep going. What's the score?
Still 3-3, top of the 5th, 2 outs.
I'm sorry, it was 90. I'm sorry, I got the day wrong. I got the year wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the All-Star Game MVP in 1990.
Yeah, and so what had happened was there was a rain delay. And it was rainy, and it was kind of a boring game. I'm gonna have to find this. Holy crap!
Oh, in '91, he had his 200 hit season and won the batting title.
Oh yeah. This was.
I guess that's why I remember '91 more.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, he was, dude. I mean, again, you want to talk about these Rangers that? Oh wow, it's crazy to see Barry. Was that Barry Bonds? Wait. Yeah, I guess it was 90, wasn't it? Holy crap. You forget how long Barry Bonds played for the Giants.
Well, Barry Bonds came to the Giants in '93.
Then who was that? Am I being racist?
Yes.
Who is that?
Might have been Bobby Bonilla.
He wasn't a Giant.
Oh, he was
Kevin Mitchell. Sorry. It's Kevin. I wasn't.
Wow.
Well, no. You son of a bitch.
Cancel Terry.
No, I'm not showing you. I was skimming through really quick trying to find the Julio Franco moment. Hey, Kevin Mitchell, that's another one of those had a couple moments that was fun.
Yeah.
Where's it at? Why is this not showing? I'm having to go through an actual broadcast and find. Oh, Sandy Alomar Jr. That's a memory.
Great player back in his day.
Do you think Roberto Alomar is not in the Hall of Fame because of the spitting, and it turned out like a lot of people didn't like him and all that?
Wasn't that Roberto? His brother?
That's what I just said. That's what I said.
I think you said Sandy. Sorry.
No. I brought up Sandy, but I carried it over to Roberto.
Probably. He was one of the greatest second basemen I've ever seen. But
oh yeah.
Again, when I was watching, he won a World Series with the Toronto Blue Jays in '93. So, like, I already had high regard for him, and then he carried that over to Baltimore. And then, of course, the spitting incident kind of hurt. Man, I really thought he would have already been in the Hall of Fame by now.
Well, he also had the whole allegations when he was in the front office of sexual assault. And
yeah, that probably will. Yeah.
Well, man, I guess I can't find it. I had it earlier. I don't understand what happened to it. Let me see if I can find it on here. Sorry, I really want to show this. Anyway, I'll show you Hank Baylock. So Hank Baylock in 2006 in Chicago, Eric Gagne, who was lighting the world on fire as a closer, was a blast to watch, was amazing. And they were literally kind of like talking like, hey, this game's almost over. Thanks for joining us. And then this
right-handed pitching is Blaylock. With Gagne on the mound, Blaylock is the man at the plate for the American League.
Hank, a 2-0 changeup. He'll get it again.
That's one into deep right center field. The American League is on top in the eighth. Blaylock, a pinch hit, 2-run home run.
Now, I bring this one up because he should have won the – I'm not going to say he should have won the MVP. By the way the All-Stars had always done, he should have won the MVP. You saw Garrett Anderson celebrating. He won the MVP because he had 3 hits and like a triple, a double, and a single. And he deserved it. But there was an era where if you basically as a batter score – I mean, I don't know if Julio Franco deserved it or not in 90. It was a really ugly, low-scoring game. So he's like literally the only offense. But like Hank Blaylock kind of got screwed. But it's still a fun memory that I think everybody forgets.
Yeah. The way they were judging all-star MVPs was never consistent.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, yeah, part of me would say, yeah, he should have gotten it. But he was in the wrong time. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Hank Blaylock, underrated Ranger. He was in, all franchises, especially the Rangers, because they've had many of them. But the Rangers, they have those years where they suck in those eras, and he kind of was a little too early for the great run. But he at least gave legitimacy, I think, to a Ranger team that was pretty bad at that time.
Yeah.
He's also very well known for the next year. He pinch hit for A-Rod. And why does that care? Because that was the year that the Rangers had traded A-Rod and all that and all. So you brought up the C-League tie, and I said I had a moment in that, and that's this one right here.
Yeah, I remember this moment too.
This is legitimately, I think, one of the best All-Star moments.
Yes.
And I'm just going to let this play out. I'm not going to talk.
Didn't get his
by one of the game's young rising star, and who actually lives out in the DFW area, Torrey Hunter.
Yeah, him and Vernon Wells were two of those guys that were always going to be Rangers at some point.
So, and Minnesota was on the come up in the 2000s.
Yep.
You know, Tom Kelly's last year, they had a winning record. Then they hired Ron Gardner to be their manager, and he led them to a great decade. And then, yeah, he was kind of the catalyst toward that, and it's just kind of symbolic in a way. Barry Bonds, of course, 2002, he was killing it. Of course, he had the controversy with the performance enhancers, but that was a great hit, and it was a great catch. It was a great moment. That is a moment I do remember. I mean, I just finished high school. I was going to college. So obviously at the time of the day, I wasn't working that summer. So I definitely remember watching this whole game. And it was a great moment.
And it was such a fun in the moment. It's one of the few times that you got to see Barry Bonds be fun, because as much as I love him, and it's a great comparison. Him and Ted Williams kind of had a lot of the same things about them. For Barry Bonds, it was growing up seeing his dad. He felt kind of wronged by the media. And I think Barry Bonds needs to accept that his dad, Bobby Bonds, as great as he was, Bobby's admitted he had a huge drinking problem. He wasn't the nicest guy and all that. But it became, and I'm not saying they're wrong. For Barry, it became a little bit of a racial issue.
Yeah.
Willie Mays, his godfather, even told him, never trust the media.
Yeah.
And all that. And so Barry Bonds wasn't well liked, but I thought this was a really fun, in the moment, you're seeing a guy who's just enjoying baseball.
Yeah. It's just a snapshot in time. It almost seems like Barry Bonds wasn't this happy since his Pittsburgh days.
But I feel like, I honestly feel like he was outside of the whole, steroid and all that. I think he was way happier in San Francisco. I always felt in Pittsburgh he hated it.
You just think because of East Coast or other reasons?
I just don't think. I don't know. That's a good question. I just don't think. I don't know. That's a really good question, because you look at that Pittsburgh team, and maybe it's just simply because they didn't win anything. Maybe if they
because they went to the NLCS 3 years in a row. And they had nothing to show for it. And they were a young team, and they had Van Slyke, they had Bonilla, they had Bonds, and then '93 they just blew it up. Bonds went to San Francisco, but Bonilla went to the Mets, and we already know. We always celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day until we have another 11 more years of that. So thank you, Bobby.
5-3, the American lead as I can't tell who that was. Oh, Duran hits a home run to
nice.
Right on. Oh, right down the heart of the plate.
Oh yeah.
Okay, whoa, dude. You okay
there? Sorry.
Okay, so I'm downloading right now. I'm working on getting I'm going to show this damn Julio Franco, because, like I said, this was in 1990. We were kind of in the midst of, you had the Rangers had been fun. They'd been good and all that kind of stuff. But in 1990, they were struggling, and he was if I remember correctly, I think he was the only All-Star on the team for the Rangers. And so it's an ugly game. I can remember watching this in my bedroom, and it just wasn't, it was just a boring game. It was a pitcher's game. Nobody was hitting well and all that. And then late in the game, I think there was a rain delay. If not, there was at least, it took a while. Hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. I got to load it. I got to do what I did earlier. I got to come into this room on the other one. And then hang on. What's the score?
It is, let's see. Refresh.
I thought you were watching it, dude.
End of the fifth, AL up 5-3.
Yep. So far, it looks like it's been a fun, but it's kind of been what baseball is now. A couple home runs. All right, so here we go.
Yeah, I mean, they're just okay. How do we get a run? I don't care about your batting average. Just give me runs. And I think that's the wrong mindset, but that's the current mindset of today's MLB. Relief pitching, home runs are the premium.
Well, and this is where I think analytics have hurt.
Yep.
I remember, I think it was Joey Galloway saying, why should I give up my power swing to hit a single when the numbers tell me I probably won't come around to score? So why don't I just keep swinging for the fence? If I strike out, it's just an out. Strikeouts are not held to the same. And I'm not saying if this part's right or wrong. I'm just saying strikeouts are not held to the same like they used to be. Like Dave Kingman, amazing home run hitter. He also struck out a ton. That's why he's out of the league. You don't have that now. You can strike out a ton as long as you hit enough home runs. I don't like it. It's because it's boring. Again, we go back to the power. Those things are fun when you see them every once in a while. When you start seeing them, that's the only way pitchers get outs, and home run hitters hit home runs. That's it.
Yeah.
So let's go now to see what a true professional hitter would do.
And that's always fun here at Wrigley Field. Meanwhile, a base hit puts the American League on top. It goes deep, and the second run might also score. Bear's not a good runner, but he is going to be able to dent the plate. And it's 2-0 in favor of the American League as Franco came through on an 0-2 count.
By the way, very underrated, simple, clean road look for the Texas Rangers back then. Back then, it was the Rangers at home and Texas on the road.
Yeah, kind of similar to what the Detroit Tigers do with their look. It's kind of like two different looks, but they both look good. Very clean, very simple. I liked it.
But see, right there, he takes a fastball pitcher. I can't remember who it is on the mound. I think it's Rob Dibble or Norm. No, it's Rob Dibble. Norm Charlton's the lefty. He takes a fastball hitter and takes him to the other side. You don't see enough of that today.
Who also, Cincinnati Reds, Norm Charlton, they ended up winning the World Series, or Rob Dibble, they didn't win the World Series that season.
I was a big fan of them. So I've told you this before. You know this. This is the way the show should be, but I'll even it up. DEI hires coming around. Just saying. By the year, what'd you say? They're I don't know. 90 Reds. So first off, I hated the A's. I didn't hate the A's. They were fun to watch. But being a Ranger fan, they were the enemy. Blah blah blah. But I had read. My dad's a big Yankee fan growing up.
Yeah.
And my dad was a Yankee fan. Even when he became a Ranger fan, he still liked the Yankees. He was a fan of the Yankees in the 70s. And if anybody knows, if you think 1991 to 1997 Dallas Cowboys were weird and funny and crazy and drugs and all that, go look at the 73 to about 85 Yankees. There's a book and a TV show. People forget about that ESPN show called The Bronx Zoo. You remember that? That did an episodic look at they were just you're in New York, you're in the biggest city, and you're George Steinbrenner. Everybody is bigger than life, right?
Yeah.
And Lou Piniella was just this everyday grinding left fielder. My dad was a fan. I read his autobiography. I love reading sports autobiographies and behind the season looks and things like that. Yeah. And so Lou Piniella wrote a book called Sweet Lou. And he'd been a manager of the Mariners, and he was good, never great, all that. He ends up in Cincinnati. And then, as I told you earlier, Eric Davis, my favorite, one of my favorite players of the 80s. He's on there. Juan Soto, Chris Sabo, the Nasty Bunch, Norm Charlton, Rob Dibble, the other dude nobody ever remembers. The starter, was it Jose Rio, who died?
Jose Rio, yeah.
Yeah, Jose Rio. God, I'm remembering all these off the top of my head, dude. And they go and they play the A's, who in 88 had got upset by the Dodgers, but that was the Dodgers. That was Kirk Gibson. That Dodger team, people forget, that Dodger team was really good. And it wasn't, Earl Hershiser's 55 inning, no scoring streak, all that. The Reds were this fun-loving. They hit the ball well. They pitched just good enough, and they beat the A's. And that was just such a fun era of that team. And so it was also cool that Julio Franco hit it off of, I'm not going to say I was a not an Astro fan at the time. I was, but they weren't really great in 90. I was a real big Reds fan in 90. I watched as many of their games as I could. So that's why that as a kid, and also honestly, in 1990, I'm 15. That's kind of running the end of my, all these sports are like godlike figures, they're just, oh my God, they're epic and all that. And so I always go back to that 90 game and just how just being in Wrigley Field and him in the Ranger Road Gray and just being Julio Franco, who I still feel is one of the most underrated Rangers. Like, I really wish they'd have picked him up at least one more time when he was playing when he was 92 years old. I think he's still playing in Cuba right now or somewhere. No, I really don't.
If he is, that's awesome. Julio Franco, like him, like Ricky Henderson, they were just ageless. They just kept playing and playing and playing. Harold Baines, I'd say to a smaller extent, was like that. These guys just had longevity, and it's just pretty awesome to see these athletes still perform at a high level at such an advanced age. I always loved Julio Franco for his awkward stance. His batting stance was just like that.
You know what the great thing about that stance was though is people never understood. Same thing with Jeff Bagwell, with Mickey Tettleton. You remember Mickey Tettleton used to do that?
Mickey Tettleton, yeah.
So the thing about it, go watch Julio Franco. He starts here, but when the pitch is being left, he's in what you call Cox position.
Yep.
Always shoulders, elbow, bat, back, reload, power through. He was absolutely a blast to watch. And when I played baseball as a little leaguer, I had a guy, his name was Glenn, I think it was Fry. My parents are still listening, they'll tell me. And he taught me how to hit. And he was like a guy that had played in the minor leagues. And he was a good baseball player. And he I never went that far over, but he taught me the same thing. He was like, no matter where you start when you're about to hit, you can start up, you can start down, you can start whatever. You have to be in this position, shoulder, elbow, arm. And so I think maybe that's why I always and he also played second base, which was one of the positions I love to play. I always just loved Julio Franco. He's what you used to call a professional hitter. He would fall out of bed and go 2 for 4 every freaking day. And I guess that's the part that I miss so much about. You don't see hitters like that. You had the Marlin guy a couple years ago, $110. Like seriously, he weighed $110. What was his name? And I think he went to Seattle and kind of flamed out. But he won a hitting title.
Luis Ariz.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He was like the last guy that just hit and he lost his position. He lost his job because he didn't hit for power.
Yeah, there's some guys like that, like Whit Merrifield for the Royals a few years back.
In 2015.
Jazz,
No, I'm sorry. No, I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about D. Strange Gordon.
Oh, yeah.
Dude weighs like $110.
Yeah.
And he went. I think he ended up going to. The Mariners or somewhere.
D. Gordon, baseball reference.
Yeah, Mariners. He ended up at the Mariners.
D. Strange Gordon.
Yeah, that's what I said. D. Strange Gordon. You know who his dad was, right?
No. Oh, is it Flash? Flash
Tommy
Gordon?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Him and Darren Oliver, man, they were if you needed an African American in the bullpen, just get Tom Flash Gordon or Darren Oliver.
Not just a good bullpen pitcher, a African American bullpen.
You know what? We don't have enough of African. Is Tom Gordon? Hey, he's with the Royals. What about
I remember him as a starting pitcher back in the day.
Yeah, he was. I mean, yeah, he was. But I'm just saying he became an arm. He was one of those guys that, like, it always felt like he was about to touch greatness, and he never quite broke through. He made an all-star game. And in fact, the weird thing is he made his all-star game. Where did he go? The Yankees? The Yankees or the Red Sox? And he made an all-star game. And like the year he made it, he was good, but he wasn't great. He was like 8-6 with a 2.8 ERA, but like it wasn't like there was a couple years with his Royals, he was like 12-6 and stuff like that. And it almost felt like that was more of a legacy. Like, hey, you know what? You've been really good, but you played in the Royals when the Royals kind of started sucking. So we're going to give you this all-star game. I got to look up and see how close I was on that. I probably was completely off on all that. All right, right now in the game, it's 5-3 in the sixth inning with 2 outs. We got a replay challenge. Oh, I like the umpire hats. Those look really good. Hey, what was your thoughts about what's his name retiring, the umpire? We talked a little bit about it a couple weeks ago.
It's Angelo Hernandez.
Yes.
Years too late, I guess.
We kind of need those type of umpires. Like, I'm 100% fine with robot strike calling. That's where we're headed. Oh, somebody's out. Call overturned. Oh my God! Controversy at the All-Star game, folks.
Controversy.
How the hell do we still have 3,700 people? I'll go to bed so we can go to bed. That actually ended the inning. So we go to the bottom of the sixth. The AL's up 3-2. But I kind of am going to miss the Angel Hernandez, the Joe West, the guys who were just good enough to get the job, but the guys who were not always good. You know who Joe West is, right? Yeah. Look at you. You'll see the picture. Oh yeah, he was Angel Hernandez before Angel, and Joe West was like an umpire for like 25 years.
Oh wow. On Facebook, I had posted a comment about, in reference to yesterday's anthem performer, Ingrid.
Oh, yeah. I was going to play that as a joke, but she came out today and said that she was going to rehab, that she was intoxicated. And to be honest, I didn't watch the home run derby. Of course, I saw all the things popping up, and then this morning when I was getting ready for the show, I looked it up. It's bad, folks. Like it legit. It's not Carl. Well, yeah, it's Carl Lewis bad. Like, if you don't know Carl Lewis, go look up Carl Lewis. Charlie Steiner still has the greatest ESPN moment of all time when he can't stop laughing at that. And I was going to make the jokes, but she came out today and said, hey, I'm going to rehab. You can say if it's a PR moment, whatever. But yeah, I'm not going to make a joke, but let's be honest. That is legitimately the top 3 worst ever national anthem in a sporting good game.
Yeah, it definitely was. I hope she gets the help she needs. Carl Lewis is a little 40 years too late, but Ingrid, won a lot of awards in her career, so definitely hope she has the help. She gets the help she needs, and she has the comeback.
I've got to show this. So what makes Carl Lewis's more funny, in my opinion, is like he starts singing really bad, and then he's like, "Oh, I didn't hit that one. Hang on, I'm gonna hit this note," and then he doesn't. But what for me made it even better is Charlie Steiner, who, by the way, recently has had some issues health-wise. I hope him well. He's one of my favorite. He is part of that Sports Center era. Him and Dan Patrick. Whoa, where'd you go?
I'll be right back.
Okay. He's part of that era with Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann, Kenny Maynes, and all them where you would watch, every moment. But here is, to me, that's not the one I meant to do. I meant to do this one. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So this, as bad as the other day was, this is worse right here.
That's a lovely, lovely voice.
And the Rockets, that back.
Oh! He needs some milk.
For the land of the free.
So yeah, that's how bad it was. And I'm trying to find the Charlie Steiner, and even to this day, he did an interview a few years ago on I can't remember what show it was, and so they show him laughing about it, and he starts laughing about it again. And I'm trying to, dadgummit, why do I lose these things when I'm trying to have these marked and I can't remember where they are? But yeah, Charlie Steiner's reaction to it was absolutely hilarious.
Former Sports Center anchor.
Yeah, like I said, he just had he's been the Yankee broadcaster forever now, and he's had some health issues and everything, and he's missed a bunch of games. I hope he's doing well. But I've got to find his reaction because I mean this is you want to talk about like we all joke about like you don't want to be too goofy when you're doing like sports reports and stuff.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Sometimes it's okay to be really bad, and I can't find it. Anyway, go ahead. What do you want to say?
Is this where he like kind of loses it and just starts giggling?
He cannot stop laughing at it.
Yeah. Charlie Steiner. I mean, he's another great. I mean, a lot of these guys I know just because of SportsCenter and ESPN. Craig Kilborn. There's a lot of you people that like comedy. You know him as a host of the Late Late Show. But he was a SportsCenter anchor, and he was also an old school. He was that douchebag boyfriend that he's a tall blonde asshole that kind of rubbed people the wrong way, and he actually kind of played that character a little too well.
Wait, who?
Craig Kilborn.
Oh yeah. He was that first really dry, sardonic, like you couldn't tell if he was joking or not at sometimes.
Yeah, and he was a little too good in that role, and but yeah, I liked him. I liked Charlie Steiner, Dan Patrick. There was a lot of great anchors back then. And,
okay, here we go.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and once you find that video, everybody's gonna be laughing about it.
Oh, I will admit, to this day, when I was watching it earlier, I was laughing my butt off. Hang on. let me get rid of all this stuff we have over here. We do appreciate everybody. Dude, there's still 30.
Really? Why?
I want to go to bed.
I mean, please stay, but
we kind of want to go to bed.
Yeah.
Hang on,
think about like our Washington video did so well.
63,000 people have watched that.
Crazy.
We really appreciate it. Okay, so here we go. You ready?
Yep.
I love this.
Do it.
I miss this era of SportsCenter.
Same.
Anthem. Oh, say, can you see? And the Rockets, red flag. Sarge National Anthem. Written by Francis Scott Off-Key.
Francis Scott Off-Key.
Can we do the oral history of Bulging Disc here?
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing he's famous for.
Quaid was the producer.
That's the other thing that's one of the ESPN moments was the bulging disc, that Kerry Wood's bulging dick. And I will admit this. I never thought about this, but now that I have a full beard and I'm wearing like reading glasses, I just need to do the hair, and I kind of look like Charlie Steiner.
I mean, your hair's not thinning. Like you still got the hairline going.
That's because I've been 30 years proactive on my shaving the head for the moment I get bald. But yeah, that was and we can. I know there's a out of the 3,000 watching, there's going to be about 2,000. Yeah, that's before ESPN went woke. No, ESPN died because there's this thing called the internet. I love ESPN, but if I want to look up how the Texas Rangers did, I have a YouTube channel called Texas Rangers that's official from them. And every morning they do a little clip of their game from the night before. MLB does the same thing. That's why SportsCenter died. Not because of politics. You have no reason to go watch SportsCenter. But there was a time, and you were in college when it was still a time. I was in college a couple times through that time, but there was a time as a guy, you woke up, you put SportsCenter on 9 a.m. and you just watched the same episode for 4 hours because they would just replay. And by the way, for everybody that thinks back then they were getting a ton of views, they were, but they weren't. It wasn't like every morning there were millions. It was like 100,000s. And that's the same thing even today. Daytime ESPN has never got a ton of views because, well, most people are at work at daytime ESPN. But yeah, I do miss that era where you relied on what they told you from the night before.
Yeah, and that's what we're used to. And it was just like late breaking, and you go to your ESPN channel 32 or whatever, and you get Stuart Scott and Stan Verrett and Neil Everett, just whoever. And That was kind of like the trusted news source of sports back then.
Yeah, and Fox Sports tried it. And by the way, people forget that when Fox Sports first started, they had some really good shows. Like they had not only like their talk shows, but you and I were watching. What was that? We were watching the one on Michael Irvin after we'd recorded a few months ago, and it was behind the scene or behind the get behind the legacy or something like that. And what was so fun about it, you and I were like, it was that 90s, it was 90s, early 2000s where the edits were all real quick. And instead of having a guy being like, Michael Irvin played, it was Michael Irvin. He played 5 years and then he got his butt put up with a dildo by Alfredo Roberts. So I gotta do that to you. But it was just fun. Like Fox had some cool shit back in the day. I miss a true Fox Sports. And, Bally's took over and it's just not the same. And I miss, even though I know I can find it on YouTube, we're on YouTube. You and I watch multiple sports people on YouTube. But I do miss having that network that you just put on at 9 a.m. and said, okay, you're going to be on the channel for the next 5 hours.
Yeah, but that was popular back in the early 80s and it continued on to late 90s.
Early 2000s, dude.
Early 2000s. But once the internet became DSL and Wi-Fi and became more available to everybody and easily accessible, then, yeah, things changed. But for that 20-plus year period, that's how you got your information.
I don't know if I've ever showed you, but I've told you many times about the show Sports Night.
Yes, yeah, and that's a show I need to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, and it only went for a couple seasons, and at the end it kind of gets. But it was 98 or 99. It was Aaron Sorkin, and it was basically a Sports Center. It was a knockoff network and all that. But I remember one of the guys saying jokingly, I think it was Peter Krause, and he's signing off like, if anybody ever figures out they can look up scores on the internet, we're done. And that's exactly what happened. And again, people are going to be like, no, it's because of politics. Dude,
Yeah.
Sports Center has been dying, and everybody has been complaining about Sports Center dying since at least 2006. And the reason I know that is I can remember going on to an East Texas sports forum in 2006, and somebody had posted Sports Center's dying, and somebody else was like, yeah, I don't need it. I can, and this is 2006 before video was truly a big thing.
It's kind of early.
Yeah, I can go look up the highlights. And now, like I said, MLB finally has allowed, they were the last one to start doing highlights. But like even the Dallas Cowboys, if you miss an NFL game, you can find the highlights on YouTube. And you can get the story of the game and not miss one big play, and you can get all that done in 20 minutes.
That's a game changer.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, we've only got 2 listeners or watchers. I think it's time to go to bed.
Only 2? Dang. Yeah, well, finally.
Yeah, go to bed, everybody. You two go to bed, too.
Spit on that thing.
I can't believe you added that.
That huck to it. Spit on that thing.
You said you were annoyed by that.
Okay, Charlie Steiner. You know why I started replaying it? Have you checked have you checked her out? I don't mean like that.
No,
she's level-headed, dude. She's level-headed. So she did a big video the other day where she's like, I've always been told I got 15 minutes of fame, so I'm going to use my 15 minutes. She goes into a PetSmart and buys a ton of pet food for animals that are, foster animals. And everything about her, she's going to be famous. Like, not just for that. And she's very level-headed. She understands everything. She's turned down multiple stupid horror movies that would, probably give her enough cash to live. But she's like, yeah, I don't want that to be my, my legacy. I'm going to take this goofy thing. And by the way, it's so stupid. Some of the people getting offended by that. Jesus Christ. Y'all wish she would hawk Tui on you. Anyway, I think we had a really good All-Star show, dude.
This was great. This lasted longer than I thought it would. So.
By the way, I'm saying this with 2 people left, so sorry. I meant to say 3 people, by the way. Welcome. Texas 2 seam has been shelled mostly for the rest of the year. you and I will work it into a happy hour or two before football season.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably, nice to hit right there. The opposite field hit by the NL. But we'll probably work it in even to some of the in-season football show. I'll drink the coverage. Because remember, if you don't know, every Monday during the football season, intern Noah and I are basically going to do this for the Monday Night Football. We're not going to watch every game all the way through. But we're going to at least start the game and be talking and kind of following. And we'll follow it a lot more. I mean, this is the All-Star game. We'll follow those games a lot more. Of course, you'll be in studio for the Dallas Monday night game. But we'll also bring up some baseball. But Ryan Fox, who was our Texas two-seam host, he went on to Lyons College in Arkansas to be the communications assistant. And we do wish him well. Congratulations. But that's just we just don't have time right now to do Texas two-seam every week, but we will work it into our happy hours.
Yeah, we're definitely not butthurt and pissed that.
Oh no, I'm happy for Ryan. This is awesome for him, dude. He was, he had done a lot of great things when he first started with us, and he did a lot of great things. And I would love to have kept him with us. I think he would have done great things, but he's going to do great things there as well.
And we're definitely not going to enact revenge on him at some point in the future.
No, we're not packing up the car to go to Lyons College tonight and burn his house down. Not at all.
Yeah, definitely not.
I got to get some gas, by the way, for other reasons.
Yeah.
And paint thinner.
Wink. Yes.
Wink, wink. Anyway, I think we're going to go to bed, dude. I got some soup to eat.
All right. Well, enjoy the soup. Thanks for sharing.
Hey, by the way, what are you doing Friday?
I am going out to a friend's house.
Cornholio?
Cornholio, and talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and the 1990s honorable mention.
By the way, nobody is talking about the season that Ozuna's having right now. He's at the back.
With Ronald Acuna being out, he kind of stepped up for the Braves.
He really has. And you were talking about, I think they have been disappointing for them.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels weird. Are we about to have another Braves run where we're going to look back 5 years from now and go, how did they only win one World Series?
And it wasn't even their best year.
It really wasn't. And again, that shows you why, nice play. That'll end the seventh. That'll end the top of the seventh. We'll go to the bottom of the seventh. The American League is winning 5-3. Been a fun game for the most part. I mean, I haven't got to watch all of it, but I mean, it seems like people are really engaging. I'm looking at social media and people are really, really engaging. So that's awesome. All right. So Friday, we're going to be recording. Now, those won't be up Friday. We'll put them up over the next couple of weeks. By the way, check out our Patreon. I'm sorry, I forgot to post that. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/outdrank the coverage. We're trying to, we won an appeal on YouTube. So Bad Movies and a Drink, Any Given Sunday will be up live next week.
Yes, that was a great show.
I love the Roadhouse. I'll admit though, Any Given Sunday. And that's the one thing I forgot to say. Crap. So the very next happy hour, which will probably be the last non-regular season happy hour, we're going to do Point Break, Bad Movies and a Drink as a live happy hour. We'll figure out the dates and we'll get that to you. I don't know if it'll be on a Monday. It might be on like a Tuesday, but we'll figure that out. But yeah, so that'll be up. We're going to be recording again. The Phillies outdrank the coverage and 90s honorable mention.
Yeah, which ended up being more teams than we realized.
It's kind of funny when you look at it, the 70s and the 90s, the Cowboys were great. And, they had a lot of rivals. Why don't we have a lot of rivals from 2000 to now? Exactly. Anyway.
Good reasons.
Yeah. You can email the show, odtshow@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Outdrank the Coverage. You can find us on Twitter, X, whatever, at Outdrink You. But I'll tell you what, it's tough going on to X right now. So much porn, and I spend so many hours blocking it. But we're still there. Anyway, until next time, here is intern Noah's last words.
That hawk to and